and welcome to the Central Lyon George Little Rock Football Podcast presented by the CLGLR Quarterback Club. We are recording live in downtown Rock Rapids from the Rock River Brewery. Now, here are your hosts, former CLGLR head coach Toby Lorenzen, current CLGLR line coach Dwayne Postma, and current CLGLR head coach Curtis Eben.
On the near sideline, Teichman with blockers, brought down, fumble on the play, Lions cover it up, that'll do it. The Lions are the 2022 state champions in the state of Iowa.
Welcome to another season of, welcome to the second episode of Season 3 podcast. I'm your host, Curtis Eben, again, Dwayne Postma and Toby Lorenzen. This week we have our special guests, Scott Eben, Jeff Gacke, Jordan Gacke, and Caleb Montag. Again, this year we're going to focus on the 2008 season, and we're going to just go through some of the things. But before we go through that, we're going to talk a little bit about Mount Rushmore, probably one of the toughest positions to talk about in when it comes to CLGLR football, and that is going to be the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks.
I'm going last. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh,
now.
Boy.
Want me to go first? You want to go?
I'll go first, because then that way everybody else can copy me. So that's how this is going to work. What? I'm just waiting, Dwayne, because you're not going to copy me?
No, because I got mine written down. You want to see them?
He doesn't have it written down.
Right there.
Okay. Remember, there's four Mount Rushmores, not 7, Dwayne.
Huh?
There's 4 Mount Rushmores, not 7.
I'm not saying
there's
nothing.
not honorable
No
mention.
honorable mention.
There's
not 3 of them down
hills.
below.
There's no
Not
hills.
my time to speak. Go ahead.
If there was going to be an honorable mention, this would probably be the position. There should be 3 or 4 more faces.
I would agree with that. Again, so I'm sure Dwayne will cover all the extras. But of course, I'm going to start with the guy that just graduated this year, Zach Lutmer. Obviously.
Is this in order, or is this in no particular order?
No particular order.
I can go.
Well, it's up to it, whatever he wants.
I'll go in order. I don't care. I'm not scared.
Mine will be no particular order.
Mount Rushmore wasn't,
Okay. Well, I'll start off again. Zach, obviously Zach is a guy that when you wouldn't go to the finals twice and win it, 3-year starter, set every record out there. So for me, Zach can lead this group. But after that, obviously Nate DeYoung, just because obviously of what he accumulated at quarterback with a state championship, a runner-up with Nate. And that's going to be a fun podcast coming down the road here in the 07 yet. So then I'm going to go Adam Boovie. Obviously played with Adam, a 3-year starter at quarterback. Just one of those guys that, again, changed the dynamic of our football team, and a kid that is extremely good athlete. This last one, very debatable because there's a lot of good ones. I'm going to go with Jordan Gacke as the 4th guy, and so there's my Mount Rushmore quarterbacks, and I think Tobe and I debated this for a long time. We're not going to go too much detail, but we debated a long time because Jordan only played quarterback 1 year. I said to Tobe, Jordan's probably the top 3 all-time CLGLR football of all time in my book. Now Tobe will argue with that, but to leave him off the quarterback, it was maybe a question that we could have gone with the kid that started 2 or 3 years at quarterback, and so but. When you go back and watch 2008 film and go through the tapes and you realize how much we relied on Jordan, a kid, and then it was pretty impressive senior year from Jordan. So that's my Mount Rushmore.
Pretty much the same. Zach, obviously, things he accomplished this year. And by the way, I didn't get a chance to. You were gone last week. I don't know if Mitch was around either, but congratulations on that state championship. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah,
this
appreciate
year.
it. Thanks, Tobe.
Very well deserved. Of course, Boov. I got to have Boov on there. But Boov's been up at the number 1 probably for me for a long time until Zach did what he did the last couple of years. And then Nate DeYoung, obviously, he's a warrior on the field. Did some amazing things out there. And the last one was hard, but when you start talking, you got to be able to get on the turf. Jordy's my number 4. Sorry, Chris Keel, I owe you a beer next time I see you. But No, those four guys that I talked to, all of them played on the turf. They were involved with some state championships, and obviously we'll talk about some of Jordy's exploits along with those other guys are the four I had.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my honorable mention. Quarterback is tough because the main reason it's tough for me is because through this period of time, believe it or not, I know sometimes we like to think that we're kind of an old school program, and in a lot of ways we are, but through this number of years, we've asked our quarterbacks to do different things, particularly now in recent years, and then and throwing the ball is part of playing quarterback, although sometimes you wouldn't think that watching our team play. So my honorable mention, people, would be Justin Overman and Chris Keel. They ran a very similar style offense probably as my other guys that I'll mention a little later. And I want to mention a third one in there because he threw the ball so extraordinarily well, and that was Pete Menage. He didn't have we didn't have as the team success that we would have liked, but from a skill standpoint and for what he brought to the table from a throwing standpoint was quite phenomenal, particularly for us and what we've been used to. So those would be my honorable mention, and I'm not going to veer off from where the guys are at. No particular order. I don't like ranking. That's impossible for me to do. But I'm going to mention Jordy first for what he did in one season. 1,800 and almost 1,900 yards rushing. That's phenomenal. And then as I read through these articles, it takes you back so well, is we threw the ball quite effectively, or he threw the ball quite effectively. So I've got Jordan Gacke, Adam Boovie. In his own way, he was what he was. He played on some great football teams for 3 years. And keep in mind, that was 3A football back then. Was that much better? In those days, yeah, it was. When you started talking Harlan and them kind of teams, yeah, it was. That's special. Nate DeYoung, Nate falls in the same category as all of our quarterbacks, a real warrior. These guys, we asked them to do a lot, particularly when it came to running the ball. And they took a pounding. We relied on them, and they took it like the champs that they were. So we had... and then last would be Zach from this year. I think that speaks for itself, what he accomplished and as an individual and as a team. So, wow, what a special. And that's leaving out some still pretty good quarterbacks, of course. So it's kind of cool.
All right, Dwayne.
As good athletes as they all were, we weren't really going quarterback U because all those quarterbacks ended up playing somewhere else in college.
Yeah.
They all played on the defensive side.
Yeah.
All right. Where does Mike Bresky rank in there?
Oh, Mike Bresky would be on it, but I'm not going to say who he'd bump off because that would be almost impossible. But we talked about this in our last podcast. Mike Bresky lost one game. By the time Central Lyon got to play one playoff game, by the time we played our first playoff game, we had won 22 straight games. And Mike Bresky was a big part of that. Here comes another guy who just was a big part of that. But so what Coach Null asked him to do as quarterback was phenomenal. He was a magician. He was the perfect guy to run it. All I'm going to say is that he would be on it. And I thought a lot about that. That's a good question. But I will not say who would have been bumped off.
Probably the guy that maybe made the mold for these kind of guys.
Yeah,
no
doubt
the way
about
he played.
it. Absolutely the truth, yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point, Tobe, yeah. Special kids, boy. Man.
I spoke at the Minnesota Coaches Association a while back here, and we talked about our quarterback run game, partially because it's a huge part, obviously it is our offense. And not every, I should say, there's a bunch of coaches that came up to us afterwards, and they go, how do you get away with running your quarterback? I said, well, number one, I'm the head coach. Number two is that we expect that out of our quarterbacks. Our quarterbacks are running backs first, and then we throw the ball second. Obviously, Zach was a little bit more talented than in that category, but that's who we are as an offense. That's our identity, and I felt like that identity has always. I mean, we've had great fullbacks, but when it was time to really get yards, we were going to go quarterback. You know, and we were going to pound that football and get those extra yards that we can. I'd love to go back and count how many yards the old 17 and 13 quarterback fouls made us throughout the years. You know, we didn't run true option. You know, we ran that quarterback foul. It was 100% just get her done football and really special. Pretty. I mean, talking about those type of quarterbacks.
Of the names we've mentioned, Curtis, probably the true option operator was Mike Bresky. The rest of the guys, there was a little bit of it, but very little. But you just look at the size and speed of these four guys on Mount Rushmore: Adam Boovie, Nate DeYoung, Jordan Gacke, and Zach Lupmer. They were stout, big, strong, speedy, tough guys.
You know, you talk
Of
about
those four, which one had the biggest impact on the game?
Well, I was going to. I don't know if this is what it means, but when you were talking about quarterback follow, I think every play that we ran in the system when he was playing quarterback was a quarterback follow.
Absolutely.
We could run anything. We could fake a 28. We could fake a 13. We could fake whatever. It was quarterback follow. So I'd say probably the guy sitting right over here, Jordy, did.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I probably would have agreed with that right up until I don't know if it was the semifinal or the championship game of this last fall, which, by the way, for us guys that have been involved with this for so long, wow, when you make a run like this last fall, holy smokes. I can only imagine what it's like for you all as fans, but I'm here to tell you, for us as coaches and former players, wow, what a ride that these kids give us. But I really would have to go with Zach Lupmer in that regard, because Zach had a look on his face in a couple of them games. I told myself, we will win a state championship because of the way he took it on. But I think he had taken it on earlier in the year, but I really noticed it then. So I would have to go with Zach in that regard.
Yeah, I'm with you, Coach Postma, on that one. And the fact that it's, like I said, I mean, you wouldn't say title number one, but it's tough though. I mean, the fact, you know,
they're special guys, man. Oh, man.
You know, we'll talk a lot of stories. I will say that we were playing in Sioux Center in 07, and Nate DeYoung sprained his ankle against Sioux Center, and Jordy went running in at quarterback, and I remember Pileski yelling over to the other sidelines, "Don't worry, he's better than the other one." And about 2 plays later, he went like 60 for a touchdown. So,
well, the same thing happened at West Lyon.
That's right.
That year, remember
That's
that?
Right.
Yeah.
Young cramped up, and Jordan took over the game.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So you can bring up so many of those questions, and you can probably come up with a different guy as the answer to almost every one of those questions.
So
that's how special they were.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, you rank even all CLGLR players in the past, and every one of those four are going to hit your top 10 for sure, maybe top 5 even, because of that reason. It's very impressive, and it's been fun. You know, like, you go back on those years and you start, you know, we covered some of those teams already, but it's just, you just appreciate him that much more as time goes.
Let's not forget how good a defense these four guys played as well.
That's an understatement. So. All right, we'll keep moving on here to the 2008 team. A little bit of season review here. The team went 13-1 that year. Ended up state runner-up. The coaches that year were head coach Toby Lorenz, defense coordinator Grace Schmidt, O-line coach Dwayne Postma, Terry Van Berkum, Keith Van Beek, Jerry Plutsky, and then myself were part of that staff. We're going to go through the roster. Hang with me. We had a lot of players back then, so but I think for some people this is kind of puts it in perspective of who was playing when and where and things like that. But here we go. Start with number 1, Tyler Hofer, senior DB. Brandon Kuhl, running back DB, senior. Cole Zimmerman, junior DB. Dylan Reynolds, running back, linebacker, senior. Andrew Eben, defensive back. Hunter Sieperda, sophomore, running back DB. Eric Timmerman, senior DB. Jesse Vanderstreek, junior linebacker. Derek Johnson, senior DB, split end. Mitch Van Briesen, junior quarterback DB. Nick Bixman, senior, split end.
Scout team extraordinaire, I might add.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 12, Mike Foltz, was a junior, split end. Ethan Van Briesen, sophomore quarterback DB. Jordan Gacke, quarterback linebacker senior. Taylor Klinkenberg, sophomore quarterback defensive back. Tyler Starr, senior, split end linebacker, power back. Jordan Acevedo, sophomore, split end DB. JP Popinga, junior DB. Alex Rux, sophomore, split end DB. Lucas Eben, junior, running back DB. Justin Walker, sophomore DB. Sean Stetnick, sophomore, split end. Will Cruz, junior, split end DB. Jeff Wagner, sophomore, running back linebacker. Scott Eben, senior, running back linebacker. Brendan Metzger, sophomore, tight end linebacker. Brian Frederiksen, junior, linebacker, running back. Drew Van Briesen, senior, linebacker. David Blackburn, junior, split end. John Thiner, sophomore, split end DB. TJ Huseman, senior DN. Logan Rehnquist, junior linebacker. Sam Hall, senior tight end. Anthony Hilbrands, junior linebacker. Ethan Hopp, junior tight end DN. Brandon Witt, sophomore O-line. Tyler Figge, junior DN. Austin Clark, sophomore O-line. Brandon DeBoer, sophomore O-line linebacker. Jeff Gacke, senior O-line, long snapper.
Backup DN.
Backup DN.
Jokester.
Cheerleader coach.
Judy's son. Jeff, Jordan's brother.
Yeah.
Jordan's
Cody Zillman, senior DT, O-lineman. Caleb Montag, senior O-lineman. Tyler Tingy, senior O-line. Nate Herman, junior O-line linebacker. Justin Mallory, junior O-line. Brandon McComas, sophomore O-line DT. Johnny Estep, sophomore O-line linebacker. Zeb Gear, senior O-line. Mike Huseman, sophomore O-line DT. Mitch Vogt, senior O-line. Riley Hashi, sophomore O-line DT. Drew Berkey, junior O-line. David Shue, senior O-line DT. Brian Bender, junior O-line. Dalton Jones, junior O-line. Kyle McComas, junior O-line D-line. Alan Stilson, junior D-line. Isaac Zillman, senior DT. Trevor Chadwick, sophomore O-line DT. Matt DeGroat, junior O-line. James Schaubacher, sophomore O-line DT. Jordan Wagner, senior DN. Dustin Ackerman, sophomore O-line linebacker. Jake Groen, senior O-line. Chris Curl, senior O-line. Houston Perrette, junior DT. Zach Voss, junior DN. Dean Hilbrand, sophomore tight end DN. Jason Reichma, senior tight end. Clayton Bush, sophomore tight end. That's the roster.
How many?
Anyone?
Good
You
job,
guys
Coach.
remember how many fellow seniors you had? That was a heavy senior team, numbers and starters and so on.
Mid to upper 20s,
Yeah.
I think.
21 starters.
Yeah.
21 starters are seniors.
Yep.
Ethan Hopp was the only junior that started.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
He started because he wore a good number.
yeah.
So
He started because he was an
Defensive
animal.
coach liked him, huh?
exactly. When you wear 48, you start. So that's what happens.
He led in sacks, right?
He did.
Well, he had a motor.
Yeah.
He had a motor, man.
Oh,
I'll
man,
tell
he
you
had a
what.
motor.
Hopper deserves. No, he
Hop
was.
star, yeah.
Yeah, he was a big contributor for sure.
You know, before we get into the senior, we can talk about some of these players, but I'm gonna ask these guys that are former players who was your going in that senior year. Now looking back and that the season that you guys had, who was your biggest surprise? Because I know mine. Like somebody, maybe you guys are so used to it, so it wasn't a surprise for you. But for me, this kid was a big surprise for me and for how far he came in our program.
I would say just after watching tape the last couple days, two of them were maybe Eric Timmerman and Derek Johnson. Both are safeties on defense, and Derek played a little split end.
Holy smokes. Reading through these articles, he had a lot of big plays for us. Didn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
Holy smokes. I had forgotten that. So he would have been my choice in that, Curtis.
I'm with Scott on that. I got Derek Johnson probably as number 1, and after that, probably Andrew Eben. Not only because of what he did on defense, but he also was in on every play on special teams. Dude could fly.
Yeah. He had good wheels. Very good wheels.
I had a lot of questions about Jeff going into the season.
They still haven't left.
I was watching tape and I was like, I don't remember him being that good, but he was better than I remember.
Yeah. He made honorable mention to my Mount Rushmore, Caleb.
I
here to
believe
tell
it.
you, yeah.
Along with 7 others.
Well, okay, wise
Means
guy.
a lot coming from
Okay,
Dewey.
here's typical how offensive linemen get treated. We should have had a Mount Rushmore for left guard and a Mount Rushmore for right guard, but no, you got to put them all together. Impossible. There, I just had to say it.
I was pretty good at cheating and hiding it in the middle.
But I agree with you. Derek Johnson, in my mind, was probably the biggest surprise.
Well, because he showed up to summer weightlifting, eating a Pop-Tart and drinking a Mountain Dew every morning. Half the time, Snyder's would kick him out of the weight room, and he somehow still showed up.
We mentioned, who else? Who was your other one, Scott?
Eric Timmerman.
And Eric Timmerman, Lucas Eben,
Andrew Eben.
Andrew Eben. Those are what we refer to in our coaching circle as program kids. When their time came, they came through, and they were part of our program, and the opportunity presented itself. And every year, the success of our team relies upon those program kids coming through. And there's a good example of 3 of them right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. We talked a little bit about how many returning starters we have coming back that year.
4 or 5.
4, 5.
Not very many on the offensive line.
These 3.
Caleb, Scott, Jordy.
Dylan and Tyler.
So 5. And then, turn around and you fill up the rest of that team with all seniors besides one junior. That's what's really impressive. And how, you guys, how many, I know I have that down here somewhere. Did I take that off? Coach Cruz, I might have not included that.
Another one I thought, we all knew he had the athletic ability, but was Brandon Cool. I thought he had an amazing year.
And he had
kind of under the radar a lot.
He had to come in and fill in a lot, too.
Yeah, he did.
Scott went down to fullback.
We'll talk
he was
about
playing
that.
a little bit. Yeah, kind of.
Fastest dude on the team. He's playing fullback.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking that reading the articles. That's amazing.
Second fastest playing fullback, too.
Scott was too lazy to run track, so there's no numbers.
But your guys, 2008, that senior graduating class, they went out 45-4 throughout the 4 years in high school, and you guys were 56-5 from 7th to 12th. So you guys lost a game in junior high. Remember that?
No, I remember we tied one. I don't think we lost.
Yeah, I don't think we lost one either, but I was reading through that.
Did we tie Sibley? Who was
tied
it?
Sibley.
Thought so.
In Little Rock, right?
Rock.
Yeah, it was raining.
Was that the Rain Bowl?
Yeah.
I believe I ate a worm on the sideline that game. $20.
Was that
Who paid you $20 to do something
Isaac
like that?
Dimmelman paid me $10, and somebody else paid me $10.
Good for you, buddy.
Can't make that stuff up.
Attaboy, you can't.
How do you remember this?
Yeah, you can't make that up. Attaboy.
Is that the game Jordan missed because he got kicked in the head by a horse?
Yeah, I don't know. That was when we were younger.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Abby probably told me couldn't play that day.
Way back then already? Holy smokes.
We're getting started early now.
Holy smokes.
See, you get a little of this on the podcast when you have twins on here. So.
That's awesome. Well, go into a little bit about injuries. Scott sprained his ankle, was out, missed. You missed 6 games, right, Scott, that year?
Yeah, I think 5. I think, 5, 6,
That was
something.
a nasty sprain, wasn't
Did
it?
you do that jumping up and down when you were going to carry the
No,
ball in the huddle
no.
every time? Or not?
No, I got. I
Those
wore.
knees came pretty high.
I wore that cowboy collar, and then I got tackled by it, and had a.
That was a full-blown washboard.
Yeah.
Cody wore the cowboy collar.
Yeah, whatever they're called. They were cool back in the 90s. And back in that day, I led with my head a lot, so that would probably be illegal now, but gave me a little neck and head protection.
You had a nasty sprain, though, didn't you,
Yeah,
Scott, if I
it was
remember right?
high ankle sprain, and everything was torn, I think.
Yeah.
He said it would be a year for full recovery, but thanks to modern medicine, got back in after a while.
Was that the same ankle that you did the year before in the playoff game? Or no?
I don't know.
Remember that?
No, not sure.
Jordan tore his ACL in the Okoboji game. Is that the game he tore it in, Jordan? I wrote that down, but I wasn't 100% sure. Because you actually got hurt in the Pocahontas game, too. Mm-hmm. You, sprained your knee or something in that game.
It was a Boji game on the ACL,
on the sideline. That was the ACL one?
Home sideline.
Yep. Caleb?
Say that again, Curtis, because I'm not sure a lot of people even realize that it happened then.
So Jordan tore his ACL. That was the first quarter?
You tell me.
This first half sometime.
We're going to ask, because Coach
we were heading down towards the scoreboard.
Coach Shipper just walked in. He was the head coach for Okoboji at the time. So
it was one of those touchdowns, one of the many touchdowns against Okoboji.
Perfect time to walk in.
Perfect timing, Trav.
Okoboji was actually pretty good back then, so I'll give you some credit.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys didn't play though. They were.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
He's going to resign all positions here pretty soon. So anyway, but Jordan tore his ACL the first or second quarter of that game. Took a couple plays off, kind of a pussy. But got back in.
Rub some dirt on it, Jordan. Get back in there.
Got back in the game. I think ended up with over 100 yards that night. And
Joe couldn't get down to the sidelines and get a strawberry container
around his knee.
That's right. I remember after that game, I was digging through the closet at home, two older brothers, trying to find some kind of support, and I found a friggin' old knee sleeve that had some hinge, like a hinge brace on it.
Forrest Gump.
I remember Kurt came like, "You feeling all right?" I'm like, "My knees feels a little tight right now, but." We're walking, so.
Unfortunately, every kid at Central Lyon that tore his ACL after that, or her, they got to hear the story from me about you. That's all they ever heard. Well, he played 2.5 games with a torn ACL. You guys complaining. I don't know what you're complaining about. But.
Well, and I remember Jordan had an old brace that we would have to bend out so he could put it on because it didn't fit him.
You gotta love it.
Caleb Montag you had both rotary cuffs torn.
It was labrums.
Labrums? Yeah. Labrums.
Correct me, I remember we did sit you out of the Okoboji game, and Chris Krull stepped in, took the place, did a good job, because we had an outstanding offensive game that night. Mm-hmm. But I remember we rested you that game.
Yeah.
Those babies were torn pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
So that's tough to play through when you can't lift your arms up. It's you had both braces on, didn't you?
I had both. I kind of had to walk like that,
and kind of robotic a little bit.
And when one would pop out, then you couldn't lift it, and then Postman would be yelling, "You got to get your hands up!" You got to fly with somebody.
Never heard that.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Mitch, you said Mitch Vogt hurt his knee in the last game, huh?
Yeah, Mitch, he left. Ankle. Okay, yeah. I remember Mitch left the championship game, so I knew. But you had knee surgery afterwards, right? Or no? No, that was soccer. Okay, I misremembered that.
That's right. Yeah.
It's only been 14 years.
Yeah. So moving on to probably one of the best stories of the season was Sam Halls wasn't feeling very well. So Sam went to the doctor. Is Sam here?
Is Sammy here? Sammy Halls, are you here?
He better be here.
Now, that's why he's not here, of course.
It's tax season.
Tax season, yeah.
So you guys got to help me out here a little bit on this. But Sam went in because he wasn't feeling well, and he was going to get a shot. And he proceeded to see the needle.
No, he got a shot in the butt.
Okay.
And as soon as he stood up, he passed out. As soon as he passed out, he hit the wall and hit the bench and hit something else. He had to end up getting stitches in his cheek, I believe. And he broke his nose, yes. And he couldn't wear a helmet, so he had to sit out the next game. And that was when we were going to the Dome. I think it was the semifinal game.
I'm pretty sure. Was it the semifinal
game? It was the Okoboji game.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the
Okoboji game, he had a huge play.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was the semifinal.
Pocahontas.
Might have been
It was Pocahontas, I think so. Because, he had a big catch in Okoboji.
I'm pretty sure that was Friday, too.
Yeah, I think it was the day of.
Oh, the day of the game.
Everyone's telling that story around school, and we're like, yeah, all right, what really, where's Sam at? No, he's knocked out or whatever happened at the doctor's office of all places.
Running power eye with Jason Ripe, my tight end one.
Yeah.
Hopper stepped in, played some of that game too.
Yep.
But I tell you what, that was that was probably one of the best stories ever. And then I think Tyler Starr had some shoulder issues also throughout the year, but he played. I don't think he missed any games. He played through it. So
I think Brandon Cool did too.
Brandon had some shoulder issues in. Or
Yeah,
what?
I think he had labrum surgery at the end of the year.
We had our share of injury issues, no doubt about it. We were,
But
Not as many as the year before, but we had plenty.
yeah, right.
the biggest things we pieced things together. We
Yep.
kept things going, and
Yep.
you have torn ACL, you sell out 2 plays, and don't sit out so we're.
So to piggyback off of the injury thing, and then the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, we'll go back a year. Where were we playing? Like we went east,
Eagle Grove.
Grove.
Yeah, it's Spencer, yeah.
and DeYoung went out, Jordan went out.
Well, DeYoung didn't play. Jordy started.
Jordy started.
160 the first
Nate
series.
DeBoer should be on the Mount Rushmore potentially, but he
For crapping his pants in the locker room or on the sidelines?
For spitting the most sunflower seeds out of his mouth.
So Jordy gets hurt, and DeBoer comes running out on the field. We're all just like, what the hell is going to happen here? And DeBoer's spitting sunflower seeds out of his mouth yet, and he starts slapping all of us on the helmet. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And I look up, and he goes, I know I'm not Nate DeYoung, and I'm certainly not Jordan Gacke, but we can still win this.
Everybody all jacked up.
Absolute truth. Yeah.
The first thing he did in that game was he goes into punt. For Jordy and kicks like a -2 punt. For us.
2-yard punt. Negative 2-yard punt, first play. It's like, oh boy, here we go.
Well, when the franchise goes out of the game, everybody's looking at each other like, what are we going to do here?
Program kid, there he comes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he actually played pretty solid quarterback. He did not hurt us, put it that way.
Coach Schmidt always called them.
Stay on the 2008.
Yeah.
Finish
Oh, okay. I was going to say, Coach Schmidt always called him Bobby Lane.
Yeah.
And that name came up a while back, and I looked it up, and I don't think you want to be Bobby Lane.
No, he's not quite in the Hall of Fame.
No.
But that's all Smitty could rely on for the Detroit Lions. Poor
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, exactly.
Him and never mind.
We'll go through starters for this year. Again, 21 of the 22 starters are seniors. Offense, left tackle is Cody Zillman. Left guard was David Shue. Center, Jeff Gacke. Right guard, Caleb Montag. Right tackle, Mitch Vogt.
4 of the 5 new starters that year. Did Mitch? Yeah, he didn't his junior year. So 4 of the 5 of those guys were first-time starters.
Yep.
And tight ends were Sam Halls, Jason Reichema, and Ethan.
Brian Reipkema.
Jason.
Jason. Oh, it says
Jason.
Brian. Okay.
Jason Reichema and Ethan Hopp.
Okay.
So, and then split ends with Derek Johnson and Tyler Starr. Fullbacks were Scott Eben and Brandon Cool. Powerbacks were Tyler Starr and Brandon Cool. Tailbacks were Dylan Reynolds and Tyler Starr. Quarterbacks were Jordan Gacke and Mitch Van Briesen. So, go to the defensive side of things here. DNs were Jordan Wagner and Ethan Hopp. DTs were Cody Zillman and David Shue. Linebacker was Jordan Gacke, Tyler Starr, Scott Eben. And corners are Andrew Eben, Brandon Cool. And then safeties are Eric Timmerman and Derek Johnson.
Another throwback to Coach Schmidt. I remember going off in practice, Cody jumping offside. Cody Zimmelman, you got to be blind in one eye and can't see out of the other.
The ball was right in front of him.
Right in front of him as he tackled.
Talking about special teams that year, Cody Zillman did our extra points and our kickoff. Punter was Jordan Gacke. Long snapper was the Jeff Gacke. And the holder was Derek Johnson. Jeff. Long snapper's an important position.
They were good snaps.
Maybe the dirtiest long snapper in Iowa history, too.
Probably
That's
right.
all right.
For those of you who don't know, on extra points, Jeff would snap the ball and then wait for the other team to jump up, and as soon as they did, he'd cut their legs out under them.
Attaboy.
Basically flip them over.
Drop them on their heads, baby.
That's okay because For all the years that long snappers took abuse, Jeff paid a little back, didn't you, buddy?
We got even.
That's right.
We can talk a little bit about those positions, but like we talked a little bit about, we talked about secondary-wise, but that core of linebackers has got to be one of, if not the best set of linebackers we've ever had come through CLGLR.
We were talking about it in my office the other day. You and I were about how we go to USD. Remember we were at USD and they'd always do the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
And they call out linebacker groups and they brought you guys out and you guys stayed there and dominated for like 10 minutes straight.
Yeah. Yep.
And honestly, that was probably one of the best. I mean, don't get me wrong, state championship run, but that was one of the best memories. Friggin' Thunderdome, it's at night, you're at a team camp, you're there with your team bonding, and we're out there as linebackers taking on anybody that would come on the field.
Yeah, usually anytime Golgowski would do that, he would always bring out, he'd pick this guy. Well, we're like the only ones where we picked like the whole team, our Central Line guys at the same time out there.
It was got down at the Thunderdome, and I'm pretty sure they took Tyler Starr, and they offered him. They took you, Jordan. I'm pretty sure they offered him. And Scott was left in the field.
Yeah.
and Coach Lorenzo goes, hey, this guy right here, he's good too.
Yeah. No. I said, this guy is better than both those two. Didn't I?
Yeah, you did, 100%.
I did that.
And I thought, that makes me feel pretty good.
Yep.
And then at that time, you're thinking, what the hell, then it's like, I'm 5'9". That's why.
Yeah. But those are the days when you went down to USD camp, and it was a hoot, man, because you just kicked everybody's ass.
Yeah, going against the bigger schools too. Talked a lot of crap, and
then
you go out there and
did we play Harlan that year?
We played Harlan that year.
Yeah.
Remember that? 'Cause there was after every play,
Eaton, Minnesota.
That was Eden. After every play against Harlan, there was a fight that day, and then we got done, and we're going through the line, and Coach Blatt comes up and shakes our hand and says, "That was kind of a spirited game, wasn't it?" So, yeah, it was spirited, all right.
You guys remember Coach Blatt during that game, during that scrimmage at all?
Yeah,
I do.
I remember Jeff coming up to me, and he goes, "Hey, Coach," he goes, "I never heard Coach swear so much in my life." he had a sophomore quarterback, and I don't think they completed one pass against us, and he was riding that kid's tail.
I remember
to the end of because their starting quarterback was in state baseball, and so he wasn't there. But the sophomore quarterback, and it was just dropping bombs. And Jeff's like, "Oh my, I don't want to play with that guy." And I remember Jeff bringing that up at camp, and
that camp was really good for us in those years with these guys throughout their high school career because they needed the challenge.
Well, you remember every night the USD coaches would come together and they'd say, "Okay, who wants to play who?" And he always took care of us first because he knew how you guys played. And he's like, "Okay, who's Central Line, George Little Rock want to play? You want one of the bigger schools or whatever?" And we always
Did you ever tell
bring
them?
them on.
Yeah, you weren't worried who we
No,
played.
we wanted to play the best of them.
Yeah, and they knew that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thinking back on it too, like the big cities or the big city schools from Minneapolis and the Harlans and Marshalls and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I remember some little kid
Some
from
other-
Eaton, Minneapolis, and Dylan and Derek Verbeeker fighting this kid about every other play. Some little wideout.
Pretty intense
They
stuff.
had some big,
boy.
tall quarterback, and that was the only team who said, "Hey, you can't hit the quarterback."
Yeah.
Remember that because he was going to Minnesota or somewhere. He was like
Yeah.
some 6'5", 6'8" player. I'm like, "Hey, don't hit the quarterback." He's got this wide receiver, and the kid's about to fight every other play.
No, that USD camp, those are just really fun times, and part of it is because we kicked everybody's tail so bad.
Yeah.
And really just a lot of good memories from that. Talk about the managers that year, Lexi Mamigay, Jamie Lorenzen, Caitlin Huseman, and Kylie Eckenrod were managers. Good group of managers. Can't complain about that. Even have a couple in house tonight. Let's go. Yeah. But going on to a little bit of, let's go and start the season here. Talk about each game as we go along. Start with the first game that year against West Lyon. We were at home. Ended up winning that game 20-14. But in my mind, it was a lot worse of a score than it was worse of a game than what the score showed. Jordan was wearing his blue underwear that night. Tried to give him
the game a couple times.
Well, you gave him the ball one time. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Kipley, wasn't it?
Basically a handoff to the end zone. Like, oh, that's
You owed Kipley, though, or Kipley deserved that after you destroyed him, 2 years earlier when you
Might have
crack
been a
blocked blocked him and put him into next week.
I remember that.
Like I said, I think that game there was quite a few turnovers in that game. By both teams, it was kind of one of those that happened, but again, just a typical battle on our field. I really felt like it was one-sided in a lot of ways, but the score showed. I think we scored late in that game, and then ended up taking the lead. I believe, were we down 14, 12?
We were,
yeah.
in the second half, I believe, even.
It was like 11 minutes left when we scored the go-ahead touchdown, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was a good game. They're typical West Lion. Wasn't supposed to be,
Yeah.
one of their better years, and then all of a sudden, here they are, and we're in a dogfight against them.
You know, when you got so many seniors in the lineup like these guys, and playing at such a high level, there was never much panic when it came to those type of games either. When we were down, there was just not a lot because you guys, we just knew that the cream was going to rise to the top, and the seniors were going to play like they needed to.
I believe they obviously had that fumble recovery or whatever you call it, and then the other one was it an interception that they got down to like the 15-yard, 10-yard line.
I don't remember.
But I tell you what, it was. Our defense played. I felt like really, really good football throughout that game. So.
I think as we progress through this season, it comes back to typical really good CLGLR teams with that consistent, nasty, tough defensive football. We'd ultimately impose our will back in them days, especially running the ball and doing our thing offensively, but it so many times came down to great defense. And this was a game right off the bat that it came down to great defense.
You know, I think Coach Lorenzen hit it on the head too. With just when you looked at the guys on the team, I mean, we lost 4 or 5 games throughout the career. We'd be in tight games. Looking back at the film, a lot of them were sloppier than you remember.
Yeah.
But when you looked at the guys, there was nobody that was worried or playing conservative or thinking, oh shit, we got to hang on to a game. It was we're going to win the game. It's just a matter of pulling away in the fourth quarter versus the first quarter.
It's a matter of waiting for Jordy to break a big run. That's basically, we're just waiting,
But
just that mentality wins you a lot of football games. It really
100%,
does.
That game, too, Jordan cramped the whole fourth quarter, I think, and
A lot.
I don't know if he played any defense, and then he'd come in for about 2 or 3 plays, cramp, then Mitch Van Briesen, right?
Yep.
Would come in, and then Jordan come in 2 or 3 plays, running.
So I did a little homework. I got through almost one of your games, Kurt, before this. And I think what led to the cramps, I had a long run down the home sideline.
Yeah.
I went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Whole line. Everybody's going to the left. Yeah. It was like at 13, whatever it was. And I go out the other side, just had to beat the corner.
Yeah. And of course you do.
No. You didn't. You did that on purpose.
I was going to say, you're not supposed to admit those things.
That's all right. I wanted 15 years removed now.
It's okay.
I was like, good job, Jordan. Way to run.
Good call, Tobe. That boy.
Jordan, you
Put that in that week.
saying you had a brain cramp first?
I wanted to tell that story because I remember you came back to the huddle after you broke that run, and you're like, sorry about that, guys. I went the wrong way. We're all just like, you just ran it for 50 yards. What are you apologizing for?
Thanks for your honesty, though, Jordan. We appreciate it.
That was good.
It's probably also like my number one memory game, not only being my first game at center, but you got Andy Simons and Will Van Hoff, and you got Kudum at linebacker. I watched the film. There's a lot of the game where I'm grabbing them in the chest. As I'm going over backwards, they're coming with me. I might not move them forward, but they're coming down with me.
The offensive line got whipped that game.
Holy shit, those guys are big.
But that,
they were both first team all state.
Again, like you say, Scott, every year, okay, they're not supposed to be that good. Well, they had studs over the place out there too that we. Yep.
But we won.
Yep.
And that goes back to what you said, Jordy. Nobody had a doubt about that. We got to get going, Yeah, big win.
And then we move on to game 2 against Lamar's. End up beating those guys 28-6. A game that we absolutely dominated, start to finish. Early on, I think we took the opening drive right down and scored. And then the second possession, I believe we blocked a punt.
Yeah, they snapped it over the.
It's a hop.
I think they snapped it over the punter's head, and Hop tackled him on like the 2-yard line or something. And
That's the play the official fell over backwards.
It is.
Backpedaling so fast.
I sent it to somebody. Watch it film.
I did see that. Yeah, yep.
This is the game where we unleashed the Dylan Reynolds speed on the kickoff.
Oh, yeah,
return.
baby. Attaboy.
53
some
yards.
yards. I remember that. I turned on the Jets.
Then Dylan got tired.
I love it. But that you talk about punt returns. That has been a mainstay of our program for as long as I've been around, which is forever it seems. But we've had punt returns. We're one of those teams, and we saw it again this year. Teams will literally punt the ball away from our guys as the season progresses because they can't afford to have that big return against them. And they've done the same thing with kickoffs a lot of times. And that, even with the speed demon, they had to, yeah, that's right. Got her done. That's a big play.
But you know what? We were 41 for 245 yards rushing that game. Just completely controlled the line of scrimmage. We first downs we had 13, they had 12. But when you compare total yardage, it was completely again. For that matter, we dominated the line of scrimmage, and I honestly think they were ranked in the top. They were 6th at the time.
I was going to say it's fun to play. It was always fun to play them because they always had really good athletes. But we being a smaller school, we always had more. It seemed like
and tougher.
We were
tougher.
tougher.
We were definitely tougher. We were definitely going back to your time, Kurt. We played them, and all the way through there, it's like they brought a lot of athletic ability to the field, but we brought way more toughness than they did.
My college roommate for 2.5 years was their starting quarterback, Tyler Kander. Mm-hmm. Never let him live it down it.
Oh, yeah.
But, 100%.
Who did the stats these years? I'm looking here. I had 12 assisted tackles. 0 solos, so whoever did it liked me. I think they're just throwing my name in.
You just like diving on the pile.
Yeah, probably.
You're kind of like me on special teams.
Scott was the guy fixing his sock right next to the pile. Then getting up last.
From a defensive guy, though. Let me get closer to the mic here. From the defensive guy, though, if you're in the picture.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the picture. You know what I'm talking about, Kurt.
You're there.
Yeah, fixing sock.
Yeah.
He didn't learn it from no stranger.
Got to be in the frame.
Go on to move on to the Unity game. End up being a 35-7 blowout. Absolutely crushed these guys. The thing that people have a hard time today because they forget about another thing is that a 35-7 ball game is a blowout.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The
Today
type of offense we ran.
Exactly. Yeah, the type of offense. Like it took a lot to get to 35 points with that offense. Because you're going to chew a lot of clock up. But so people are like, oh, well, it's not 50 to. Well, it could have been. But that's why when you compare those, that's a huge.
Yeah. When you read through these games like we've done with all these articles, you even us as coaches can see that a little bit. It's like, oh really? God, we beat them like we should have been 48-7 or whatever. But these were whoopings.
So Jordan Harmelick that writes writes all articles now. So he's from Unity. And that was one of his, and he was in this game, and he says, he goes, I got to play against you guys, and he's telling me about this when I got to know him. He goes, I played against Gacke, he was playing quarterback, even those guys were in there, and he goes, that's the one night where I realized that I'm not going to be a player, that I'm going to be a sports writer.
Because they
set his path.
Weren't they undefeated coming in?
I remember going into this game. It was like year 3 of their program or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like, hey, like this Unity team, they're the team. Like they got a chance against Central Lyon. And I thought, like, offensive front-wise, we just kicked the snot out of them.
Oh, yeah.
And they had some big dudes. But
Yeah, they did. They always had big kids. And,
Bunch of big dudes.
But they had big kids, but they just had big kids. We had guys that took care of them.
You know,
Well, a lot of those Sioux County teams, when you would match up to them, they had defensive linemen that were intimidating, but they were just doughboys.
Yep.
Versus West Lyon had big guys that actually could push back.
You got that right.
yeah. And when you think back to this team, this team was the end of a incredible 3-year run, and this was our smallest offensive line, definitely a very athletic offensive line, but we weren't as big and physical as we had been the previous 2 years. By no means were we. But what I remember so much about this team was how the offensive line-wise, is how we improved so much from week to week to week to week with 4 new starters, a guy who had never played center before, which by the way, we've done quite well doing that over all these years, is switching guys to the center position and really turning out well. And it takes, and I don't want to say too many juicy things about Jeff because he gets really big-headed really fast. But it takes a pretty special kid to come in as a senior and learn a whole new position, knowing it's best for him, but especially best for the team, and really play good football and make us a better team. And we were just, this game, I remember we really started to gel together as an offensive line. That's one thing I do remember from it.
Jeff, did you play offense line like in freshman, sophomore year?
played a little bit of tight end,
Yeah.
a little bit of defensive end,
then we realized
a lot of
I was
sidelines.
gonna say, you
A lot of
guys
sideline.
thought Dylan had wheels. He's Dustin, Jeff.
You talk about our size on the offensive line. I remember, like, the one day, like I said, we drank so many Gatorades, whatever, during lifting to get to 190. I was
Yeah.
the smallest player on our entire offense.
Yeah.
Entire offense.
Entire offense. The entire backfield was bigger than I was.
Yeah, that's good
Other than
point.
Dylan, when Dylan would come in.
And when you look across the front line, we weren't big. Caleb, you were the biggest at about 230, were you?
245.
Yeah, so he was quite large, but
Yeah.
Mitch got up there pretty good. But
Cody was about the same size as I was.
yeah,
David
yeah.
wasn't much bigger.
David was a little over 200.
But
yeah.
Jeff figured out really quickly that the offensive line game was about kind of a mind game, like
Oh,
getting
yeah.
people on the ground. And,
Oh, yeah.
and Jeff took that to a new level.
Yeah.
I'd never seen someone play so dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
It's aggressive.
Be thankful
You
he
meant
was on
to.
your
You meant to say aggressive.
He played through the whistle, kid.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we call it.
There's a lot of
Through the
times.
whistle.
A lot of effort.
A lot of effort. Through the whistle.
Way back in the day, you learned from Corey DeBay because Corey DeBay
I
would always
did.
play
He was the same
to
way.
the whistle and beyond, but you always played it to the whistle. Yeah.
Same way.
Caleb, you would have
Yeah.
been around. Would have been a freshman then, I guess, right? With Corey DeBay.
No,
I played
sophomore.
sophomore.
juniors.
I was a
Sophomore,
junior with Corey DeBay.
Yeah,
sophomore,
yeah, right,
Casey
right,
Peters was a
yeah.
senior when we were
Yeah.
sophomores.
Corey was
52, handed it down, baby.
as dirty.
Yeah, he
I don't
was.
like using that
Well,
word.
and I was
as
used-
aggressive.
I was used
There
to
you go.
playing with Corey,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of, I told Jeff, you got to get,
Yeah.
and then he took it to a new level.
See, Jeff may have got beat up to the whistle, but he always won.
Yeah.
Through the whistle. Through the whistle.
That's a good way to put it. That really is.
Hey, Caleb and I always said, "Welcome to the jungle." That's what I say.
And I'll tell you what, high school football players don't forget that. Trust me, they don't. When you finish a playoff a little late and a little cheapy, whatever you call
No,
it.
through the whistle.
Yeah.
Well,
through the
especially if
whistle.
it's the first
They don't
drive,
forget it. Yeah.
you set the tone for the game.
Especially
They're
if-
like, oh, man.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're from Sioux County, it's even worse. The
Yeah.
poor guys didn't know how to deal with that. That's just all there's to it.
A little extra on those
Just
guys.
the way it was. Just the way it was. Yeah. Yeah. And Jeff, he put an exclamation point on that for us.
But you're right, Dewey. That going into that Unity game, they were undefeated.
Yeah, they were tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
They averaged
Supposedly.
30 points on offense going into that game.
Those are fun ones because they're talking them up and
Yeah, I
everything,
know,
and we just
yeah.
go in and
Well, and you guys always did a good job of convincing us we were actually going to get beat by these teams.
Well, they had a Hardee's in their town.
These are the big city boys. They got a McDonald's. They got a Taco John's.
Well, and more importantly, all we had was Slades. You got to remember that. Or the,
We had
the Shade
Popke's
Street Drive-In.
breakfast pizza on Saturdays.
I believe back then the sportsmen's had
You're
breakfast
right.
in the morning, though. The weightlifters got in on that, yeah. So we had a few things, a little bit.
Yep, got to keep you on your edge.
Those were motivational things that we used as
Yes.
coaches, guys. For you guys sitting out there, that's what we did. Yeah.
We were jealous.
Basically, they have better restaurants than we do.
Yeah.
Let's go kick their ass.
That's what it was. That's all it was about. Big city versus little country boys.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Sam Hall set a reception from Jordan, 33-yard pass within this game, and so to put us up 28-0. But we're gonna spend a little time talking about Sam. Let's talk about Sammy's freshman year, coach, when his dad brought him into the school. You remember that?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we got to mention that because Sam's got to hear this.
Sam, I hope you're listening, Sam.
Go ahead, Kurt. You can do that.
So we're sitting in the coach's office, that little coach's office, all of us, and here comes Dave with Sam. Walks in freshman year, brings him in there and says, Sam made some bad choices this weekend. We're like, well, what's that, Dave? He stole some wine coolers from the fridge.
When I'm hearing this story, I am flipping shit. I'm just going like, what? What is going on?
We're probably playing Age of Empires.
Go ahead, Curtis. Continue on.
So we had to discipline him, and so he sat one game his freshman year because he stole some wine coolers.
Hey, you know what? Let's just tell it like
No,
it is.
he lived down the street from Votes and Montag.
Oh my God!
Who stole the
We got some guys got away with something, I think,
All
maybe.
these years later, I never even thought about it that way. Oh.
Shame on Sam.
Well, I tell you what, I want to go on record as saying this, and because Dave is probably listening too. Dave, I thought you were nuts. I thought you had to be the nuttiest dad in the world. But when it was all said and done, it was the best thing could have ever happened to your son. So well done.
Yeah.
Sammy, sorry, buddy, but I got to stick up for Dad on this one when it's all done. Oh, that was a classic. Yeah.
We all looked at each other like,
Oh, dude, what just happened?
That was a first.
oh, Sammy boy. Moving on to game 4. Went over to Boynton Hall Rock Valley, and we put a stomping on them.
A very talented team, too, and we'll find out that. We'll talk about that later with that bunch. But
37-6 game. That was a game we literally couldn't do anything wrong. Jordan could run the wrong way, it was going to work out.
Yeah.
We threw the ball quite a bit in that game. You had a big completion of Derek Johnson in the middle in that game. Defensively, we had some turnovers. We
Hot blocked the punt.
Hot blocked the punt in that one too.
Yep.
There was just so many little pieces of that game that we completely dominated overall.
That's when I felt our offensive line really took control, because they could throw the ball. I mean, they had skill kids like crazy, but if we could turn the ball over against them, meaning getting turnovers from them, it was over. Yeah, it was a fun game.
Watching the film.
Was there Vandermont? What was the quarterback?
Yeah,
Vandermont?
It was Heemstra in this
Yeah,
game,
Heemstra
but later in
and
the
Dykstra.
postseason, I think it was Vandermont.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
Dykstra and Heemstra were the big, tall
Yeah.
receivers.
Boy, they had
But
some
Heemstra was the
athletes.
quarterback in
Yeah,
this game.
in this game, it was Heemstra that was quarterback. Yeah.
I think in this game too, Dylan and Tyler started splitting reps at tailback this game a little bit more. That's one thing. Going back, I did not realize how physical Starr was at a power back position.
Yeah.
He was going back and watching tape. He blocked his ass off.
Yeah.
It was very impressive.
Yeah, he went from being not a big guy on the field as far as on the radar and stuff to just all of a sudden just that last year, his senior year in the weight room in the summer. You guys remember he just got after it and
He became a really
he
big
became a
factor
man.
down
Yeah,
the
because
stretch.
he was a player and we knew he had the ability up until that senior year, but he never really showed it.
No.
Hey, when he started carrying the ball too late in the season, he always hit the right holes and stuff.
Yeah.
He was just explosive through it. like Be Cool was fast, but it seemed like
danced a
he would
little bit.
get tied up a little bit, and Star could just rip through a lot of hands.
Yeah.
And watching Dylan run, I didn't realize how much we gave it to Dylan in short yardage, and he was the smallest back we had. And I, thinking back on it, I just thought of when we were playing recess football.
Yeah.
And Dylan's got a broken hand. He gets mad at Cody Zimmelman. He starts bashing him on the head with his broken wrist with the cast. I'm like, that's Dylan. Like, he doesn't care. He's just gonna hit the hole. He's just straight forward.
You look at it. You line up all those backs, starting with this guy. How good Scott was running the ball at fullback position. I mean, you're talking Dylan brought something different to the table. Star brought something different to the table. Brandon Cool did. I mean, it was a variety, variety of looks. I couldn't imagine being a defensive coordinator having to deal with all those different types of backs we had.
Yeah, those 4, and Jordan.
That's
5 guys that are 200 pounds, good athletes. It's like, you mix and match them, all that.
And Jordan, I don't know if you remember this, but I did this your senior year, and then Justin DeYoung, or Nate DeYoung's junior year. I don't know if you remember me yelling at you at practice, where I would yell at you, be a ball hog, keep that damn ball and run, So we had that mentality with Dylan's mentality and Scott's mentality and T-Star and them guys. So we had a crew that could get her done. And by the way, Curtis, I was going to ask you this. Jordan had 1,800 and something. Is that still a record? Have we had somebody do more than that? Holy crap, that's a lot of yards.
Trust me.
1,800 and some yards.
Yeah,
man.
no, it's still a record because my son is bound and determined to break it this year.
I hope he does.
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
hope he does.
But that is absolutely amazing considering everything around you. But
And
you remember
how many
when
of the yards came with a torn ACL?
Wow.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. Do you remember me yelling at you to be a ball hog in practice, especially Thursday night practice?
I remember a lot of
be
yelling.
Be a ball hog. Because you were the guy, and that's what it was all about. That's what our offense was. It's for that studly quarterback to be a stud,
I remember
we had your other guys.
I remember, like, pound for pound, though, watching Dylan run the ball. All 3 years, he drew contact to him. We'd be playing a Sioux County team, and it would be he could have juked or spun or done something, and he would want to try to plow through somebody.
100%. I was watching a game the other night, and Dylan had a free pass to the end zone, could have walked in. And he cut back.
I remember that.
He cut back and looked for a guy to run over into the end zone. That just stood out to me like that.
That
just
was
doesn't happen.
CLGLR football, buddy. That's what it was all about. That's right.
We run those 28 quarterback follows, and he was probably the best at that. He would go out and headhunt somebody.
Yeah.
Jordy just jog it in after that. I mean, he'd drill somebody in the secondary, and we just jog it in.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just good old smash mouth. Get her done. 1,857 yards or whatever.
I don't know.
God dang.
Fucking a lot.
That's incredible.
There's a lot of passes that season that were also dropped.
Yeah,
T-Star
A lot of
dropped
passes
a
that were
ton.
dropped. And he still set the passing record.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point.
We actually threw the ball a lot more than I remember. Going back and watching tape, we threw the ball a lot more than I remember.
I will say this on the passing side, because I was never thought of central line offense, we're not passing the ball. I never really thought of myself passing the football. But the year before, broke my foot, and there was a Cherokee. Did we play them? Must have played them after. Anyways, there was a game I wasn't playing. And I was on the scout team for Cherokee, and we were throwing. They were 5 wide, so we were all.
Oh yeah.
I think that for some reason I just remember that went a long ways.
Yep.
On just,
Their quarterback was Tyler Jones.
Yep.
He's a really good baseball player.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I
for
remember.
5 days, just throwing every route.
Probably between you and Plesky, you threw 1,000 balls that
At
week.
least.
That's right.
Yeah, you guys, I remember that.
We worked hard at trying to throw the ball more that year, didn't we?
Oh,
Tony?
yeah. And we could have thrown it a lot more than what we did. We just dominating up front so bad we didn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the days. This I don't know if it was a little earlier than this maybe, but when the running game wouldn't work, I'd get yelled at by the head coach about, God, we got to block somebody up there, but we'd have 8 guys in the box. You either got to get around it or over top of it. And we worked really hard at getting over the top because Jordy could do the inside-outside thing. but we needed to get some yards over the top, and we did. We worked at it, and we did pretty well with it. We really did. Well, we set the record.
Yeah.
Set a passing record. Pretty cool.
Moving to week 5 with Sioux Center. This is probably one of my all-time favorites because it's an old part of our one of our old coaching staff. Thomas Vigdahl was on our staff and played corner, and we roasted him early on in that game. Never let him down. He no longer coaches with us anymore. I'm sure Thomas is listening, but we won a stop and go early on in that game right over Thomas's head. So sorry, Thomas.
I made sure I showed it to him a couple times on video when he was up in the weight room when he was coaching with you.
Again, a complete domination. We absolutely showed Sioux County.
It's probably our most dominant game of the year, Curtis, don't you think?
Yeah, well, obviously up to this point, for sure. It's, again, one of those things. So, if I remember right, this game, Jordan did not go over 100 yards.
37.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of passing yards, though. Right?
So Jordan went over 100 like 20 yards every game up to this point. And so Jordan
set a record on the passing yards, though. Single game, wasn't it? 152 yards. Didn't I read that somewhere?
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah, 7 for 11. That's an air raid out of Central Lyon. 152.
15 first downs to 2. Oh, you gotta love it, right? Right, Hoggers? Oh, baby.
They had a total of 31 yards that game.
Wow.
Were they like throughout when you guys played them in lower levels? Were they always that bad, or they just got?
No, actually,
they were actually pretty
remembering
decent.
this, they are our one loss in middle school. They beat us our 7th grade year. I remember that.
Were they?
Yeah.
There were 5th grade pen pals were in D-Snides.
That's right.
And we played football on our field trip.
Talking about football here.
No, look, D-Side, you remember that? So they were our 5th grade pen pals, and they had the creek deal in the middle. And Toby, I believe your daughter Jamie actually fell in the creek. Am I right? Was it Jamie? Was it? Erica's saying yes. But we played football during our pen pal field trip. And they had a lot of athletes when we'd wrestle.
Yeah,
there was a team that was tough that we'd match up with.
Wow.
But they were
How
not.
times changed, 42 zip, huh?
Yeah.
They were not a team that was a pushover.
My God, guys, they had.
But they had 31 total yards.
And they had they ran 26 offensive plays. That is a whooping.
Holy. You're right. They ran 26 offensive plays.
Did we have a 35-point clock then? We should have.
Yeah.
Hey, we only ran for 189 yards though.
Yeah, I know it. They turned the ball over 4 or 5 times, I see. So
2 fumbles, 2 losses.
whatever. It just was. That was really fun. Now,
Is that the game you hurt your ankle on?
I heard of the
Lamar's.
Unity, third game of the year. So
we'll move on to game 6.
probably why we're doing so well in this point of the season.
We're kind of on a roll without Scott.
New identity. Throw the ball. So we move on to game 6 against Washington Christian. Again, a game that I believe was completely.
Didn't Be Cool have a big game that night?
He did,
because he had some relatives at Western. That was a big game for him.
what more can you say? What more can you say than
was
52 rushes for 425 yards?
Gotta love it.
Oh, baby.
So Brandon and Jordan both went over 100 yards.
Yes. Well done, boys.
I think that's what you got to appreciate, though, about one aspect of this team. 21 starters, seniors, 5 coming in, returning, or whatever it was. Talk about program guys. That's another example where
a whole bunch of them
could have been playing years earlier, but we just had a lot of guys that.
But more important, play earlier, but I think not give up on it, though.
I think of a guy like
stay out and
I think of a
be
guy,
available.
when you were talking about USD and stuff, I remember talking to Eric Timmerman when we came home from USD. He was kind of down. He was this and that. I said, you stick with it. You're going to be a player for us. You're going to help us out. And look what he did. Those kind of guys, Andrew Eben, those guys, they were really not in the picture.
But you're right.
All of a sudden,
You're right, Kurt. You go the 2 years prior, state championship runs. So for all these seniors, I mean, that's what you got to be proud of, sticking with it and putting the work in. And obviously, that's when they're showing up on these game days.
Absolutely. I think of Eric Timmerman, too. Like, Eric was a kid that I believe we had him, like, we kind of mispositioned him maybe early on. And then
he was in a different position.
He was
Coming
a
out of
tight
USD,
end.
he was in a different position.
It was tight end.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I was
thinking D end, so maybe tight end.
Tight end, D end. Like,
yeah.
And then I think actually somebody brought it up to myself or to another coach, like, he's pretty fast. He's, he's a good athlete. We should look at him at a different position, and or safety or corner or something. So I think that was a time we.
Because I'm pretty sure he came out of USD and he was not playing. He was not in the picture at all, like a D end or a tight end or something. We're like, man, this kid's got too much ability. We got to use him.
Yeah, didn't bring this up earlier, but against West Lyon, we were up 7-0, and they were driving down, and Eric Timmerman made a diving interception right over the middle.
One-handed, backhanded.
It was
like the most incredible interception.
It was. It was just speaking of his program guy and being athletic, it's like.
Yeah. I think he was a guy who's tough-nosed, too. Like, he'll come up and stick you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't expect it. Tall, lanky kid, but he'd come up and
hit
hard.
He wrestled, so, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And if you could use one word to describe him and Be Cool, Brandon, using the same word, it would be passionate. They wanted to be a CLGLR football guy so bad. They did whatever it took to do it, and look at their success. Look at how it all turns out.
Yeah, a lot of them were. There was, these two were, Scott and Jordy were grabbing all the headlines. Dylan, Tyler Starr, but there was a lot of guys behind the scenes that were obviously our offensive line, but there was a lot of those unseen guys that were really getting it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you think about our defense alone, I mean, our defense, if you look you look at how many shutouts we have coming down the road here even. You look at Jordan Wagner, a kid. You would not put on your radar going.
We had a ton of program kids, didn't we, Curtis?
Man,
we did.
Like David Shue.
Yeah.
That D line was pretty
really
stinking good.
Yeah.
You had Jordan Wagner, you had David Shue, Cody Zoman, then David Shue, and then Ethan Hopp.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, a bunch of guys that three of the four were GLR guys that just came together and played damn good football.
Yeah.
And so
blue collar boys, good CLGLR tough.
Yeah. Jordan Wagner was one of those guys that was always just sound. Like, he did his job perfect every time.
And guess who loved him? Guess who loved him because of that?
All the linebackers.
Smitty was all over that because he loved Jordan Wagner because he always was in the right position at the right time.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of football, though. Now as a coach, that you see that you love those kids that are line up, do their job every time. Not athletic. I mean, Jordan's not the most athletic person. I think he would even admit that himself. But yet, when you do your job and you work hard every day, it paid off for him. And he had a tremendous senior year. It was really fun to see him throughout that.
Going through the stats here and all these tackles, it's always, linebackers leading it. Well, that's mainly because the D-line's doing their job.
Absolutely.
That's a good D-line, and that's
good point.
And Jordan played a lot of special teams, too.
Yeah.
I remember him playing a lot of special teams.
He had some speed, run down and do the things that he needed to do. So that, I tell you what, it's really pretty cool. But, again, going back to this Western game, we had 425 yards of offense.
Just amazing.
That kind of became the norm with this group, though.
Yeah.
It really did,
Curtis, that was 425 yards rushing.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Not a lot more passing.
We had 475.
Yeah.
Total yards. 475, yeah. That was a little different.
Yeah. Statistically, they had some first downs, but that's all cleanup time and whatnot and all that garbage,
They're another team that's kind of going into it like the Unity game, where people are saying, hey, this team, they've been now have the program for 5 to 7 years, whatever it was. They got a bunch of athletes. They're gonna bring it.
And nobody probably wants to talk about it, but I remember for some reason I always heard from you guys the year before that. I think it might have been him. It might have been Derek, Derek Verbeek and Dylan Reynolds.
Got a fight.
They took care of the Wolfpack by themselves, I believe, didn't they, one night?
I think Dylan might have lost.
Oh my God!
I think Dylan
forgot
slipped
about
and,
that.
I think Dylan slipped and fell and hit a fence pole.
There's a paintball gun, shot at each other.
I'd always heard that. I kind of heard the fringes of it, but I thought it was those two guys that kind of took care of everybody pretty much.
Nasty, tough boys.
Speaking of fighting, my favorite locker room story is during wrestling season when Dylan put a sock in Jordan's face.
Like a smelly, stinky sock?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was repercussions, Dylan.
I don't remember it.
That's but it hurt, didn't it? So it was like my second year teaching, I want to say, or maybe third or whatever. It was an athletic training room. After that's what the scale was. It was after wrestling practice. And this tells you how close this group is that so Dylan, they're all weighing in. Dylan takes his sock off, stuffs it in Jordan's face. Jordan turns around and hits him, punches him, knocks him out. So somebody comes against me and says, "Hey, Dylan's not doing well."
This ain't no bar room, bro.
So
this is a locker room.
So I went to the locker room, and Dylan's laying on the ground, and Jordan goes, stuck a sock in my face. I punched him. I'm like, oh. So now here I sit. I'm like, well, it's middle of wrestling season, so I'm going to go tell somebody, or are we just going to wait till Dylan wakes up and we talk about it? So Dylan wakes up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I should have done that. I'm like, well,
Hey, Dylan.
we just left it at that.
Did you learn something from that then or not?
Yeah, put your fist up.
Dylan, I wore a lot of them punches. He never once knocked me out.
Jeff, did you give a few?
I might have.
I hope so.
He stuck a pitchfork through my hand once.
I love it.
Oh, that was always fun going to your guys' house for birthdays or whatever. Because we were kind of neighbors too, and it was always just brawling and fighting, and I'm just not picking sides. I'm sitting there like, yeah, get him.
All right, sorry, a little off task there, but I had to tell that story sometime tonight because it was one of the all-timers. But we'll move on from the Western slaughter there going on. Went on to play Sibley.
Sibley slaughter.
Sibley was actually a decent game, 27-0. That's what you want to call decent. We had 20 first downs. They had 5, so maybe let's just leave it at that. We had 260 yards rushing. They had 74. So yeah, you're right, Coach. I'm gonna back off what I said there. The score said it was 27-0.
Right.
The stats said, "Ouch."
There's some decent kids in their senior class, though, too. Marshall Doden and Craig Hurts.
But I did read, I'm reading
years.
right here, they crossed the 50-yard line once.
Yeah, I think our play, we were like double plays wise, and they were. I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was.
I love it.
One of those games where these guys got off the bus and you knew it was over.
Some things just never change. I won't say no more than that.
And I think by this point of the season, we were tired of practicing, and the goal was you show up on Friday night, and if you could play the first half, and on the first drive of the second half, get continuous clock, and you would go home. That was.
Yeah, we got things rolling pretty good. At this point in the year, we're through our tougher part of the schedule, and we are rolling right now, boys. We are rolling. So.
Then we head into game 8 there. I don't know my glasses. What game was that?
Sheldon. This is the game I came back and just played defense.
Just played defense. I remember that.
Yeah, and I don't know if just playing one way had a lot of energy or just excited to be back, but
17 tackles.
Yeah, 17. Like I said, the stat guy loved me, whoever it was. I don't know.
No, it was big. It was big, Scott. You know, you were, whether you wanted to admit it or not, you were kind of the leader of that defense and kind of the emotional leader and the kind of the physical leader of that defense. And getting you back and getting everything kind of rolling, knowing we're going into a playoff run shortly after that, was huge. Having you available for that game.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think maybe just because Jordan was the quarterback and kind of led the offense, called the plays, and I called the plays on defense. Kind of just feeling like, that was, like you said, kind of led it. Or obviously I just got back, but when I was in there, maybe being a leader on that side.
And Sheldon always played us tough, but we took care of him that night.
I think Jordan ran an option the first play of the game here and
72
scored.
yards.
72 yards.
Is that yeah? Yeah. So
I'm guessing it was a quarterback follow.
Yeah.
And you got to keep in.
I was going to say,
Pretty good chance.
I don't know how many of you guys know this, but when our senior year, and I don't know, maybe you had this before this, Coach, but I mean, this was like student body left and right. Everybody was lead blocking for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that
you got that
a running back.
At this point, Toby, it's important for me to note with this offensive line, and you'll remember this. We started teaching some outside zone blocking.
That was the beginning of our zone. We always talk about that with Caleb. That was the beginning of the zone back then.
Yeah, we started doing that quite a bit, and that's a lot what Jordan just said, where we would remember my old
There's a lot of
phrase,
chip
scoop and
blocking.
reach. Yeah,
a lot of chip blocking.
Yeah.
Me and Montag.
And we were pretty good at it because this was a pretty athletic offensive line. Not real big, but very athletic, could move.
I think this is the first year we ran some shotgun too.
Yeah.
Out of the, you're talking about zone blocking. Yeah. And I know a certain offensive line coach that loved the shotgun. We'd have one bad play, and I could hear him over there. Get out of that!
We ran the shotgun, but basically we were just running the Wildcat. All we were doing.
Yeah, it basically was. Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing cute about it, but we always were an inside zone blocking team. That goes all the way back to how long. But we became more of an outside zone blocking team, and we utilized Jordan's ability to get outside with doing it.
It's
Student
crazy.
body right, Jordy, you said it.
You've talked about the offensive line throughout the night, Coach, and defense obviously, but as good as we were in 6 and 7, it seemed like most of those games we almost knew we had 1 and 8 more than almost even in 6 and 7. Going into those games, we almost knew those games were going to be. It was a matter of how many points we were going to score, how many points we were going to try to keep them from scoring. But, even more than 6 and 7.
Yeah, I agree.
Talking about the offensive blocking, I feel like looking back at the film, looking at our 10 passing screen, we're going to the left, and everybody's just going like this, and we're going to the 9. We let a lot of guys through. Like, there were a lot of drop balls, but Jordan also didn't have shit for time. Like, we were terrible pass blockers. Like, that was brand new to us.
I didn't like pass blocking.
It was not very good.
But one thing that I didn't realize how much we ran were quarterback draws.
They were
really good. They were really good.
Hey, but a lot of times when we do it, it was just Jordy running instead of. I mean, he would drop back for a pass and he would just take off.
Well,
it wasn't designed.
It wasn't a design draw.
Yeah,
that's one of the advantages.
There were quite a bit design draws though.
I remember calling a lot.
Me and Dylan would hit the center, I guess, open field, and So as bad as you guys were at pass blocking, according to you, you could get them out to the outside at least.
Get beat one way and then ride them out.
I don't recall us being that bad at pass blocking.
I didn't. Yeah.
But
go back and look.
But when you got running quarterbacks that are dropping back to pass, they can make your pass blocking look better than it is because they can tuck it and run and make things look pretty good.
And you talk about pass blocking, you talk about run blocking. There wasn't probably too many fullbacks that I ever had when I was coaching that could run the trap like this guy could too.
Right.
So he's gone.
Yeah,
trap
he understood
gone.
it. Yeah, that's a good point. And we were gelling pretty good at this point, guys. We really were.
Well, when Scotty came back, I can remember because
that was big.
We needed the offensive line needed the confidence to know that Scott could hit a hole, and because whoever was filling, be cool and stuff. Like I said, he was good, but Scott was great. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, there's a reason why your studs are studs and your starters are starters and all that.
Yeah. Speaking of, I will just say this. Speaking of Scott hitting the hole, we would run the 13s and 17s.
Yep.
13s and 17s. And I swear, before we would snap that ball, you get half anxious that you're gonna get there in time for Scott. Yeah. he's gonna get there,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Scott always left about half early the way it was. He got called about half the time, and then.
You know, I was watching tape, and I was wondering who those penalties were on. But if you're saying it was me, I guess I'll listen to you.
But as successful as we were with those 13-17s, Jordy, it made the quarterback follow so easy for you. I mean, they were diving on him like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when Scott's taking out the first guy for you, and you're able to cut it back off the defense, it makes you look good. Absolutely.
We lived and died. I didn't realize how much we ran that foul, but I like cringe as a defensive guy knowing like how to stop that, because it's like it's one
hard
of the
to stop it
toughest
for under
plays.
4 yards.
Yeah.
It
Impossible
really
to
is.
stop it, especially when he could drop back every once in a while and toss that thing to Starr or Derek Johnson or whatever.
Spread that ball out a little bit.
Yep.
But,
all part of being a ball hog.
now we'll move on to game 9 and Spirit Lake, 33-0. Honestly, I do not remember this game at all.
I don't even remember we played Spirit
I
Lake.
did not either.
So I was just, before we get into this game, I was.
Well, I can tell you why here shortly that I don't remember it. They had 25 rushes for how many yards, Jordan?
I can't look it up fast enough.
6.
No.
6 yards? 6 yards rushing.
I honestly don't even remember playing them.
I don't either.
Do you remember?
No.
No, I don't.
This Scott is the first time playing both ways.
Dylan had a 23-yard run, it says.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Jordan didn't go over 100, so.
This must have been like the game right before the playoffs, then.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
I
knew they were bad back then. But,
we must have been totally focused on getting ready for the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
But I can't even say like what happened because.
Oh, and then I'll let you go, Kurt.
No, I don't have nothing.
I was going to say the next game, game 11, is the best game of the season, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if you take, I just happened to see this. Gacke, the Lions' leading rusher. This was game 9 against Spirit Lake. The Lions' leading rusher rushed for 1,056 yards on 134 carries, scored 14 touchdowns after 9 games. So he proceeds to rush for over 800 yards from this point of the season on.
Yep.
That is incredible.
So which after that game, which leads us in the first round of the playoffs. Before we talk about the playoffs a little bit, so we were District 1, and we played District 2, District whatever. We played the neighboring district, and it was Pocahontas, Okoboji. There was a 4-way. Coach Van Beek.
Yeah, so this was like the first year of sub-state.
Yeah, sub-state. There's never been a sub-state game.
So we added another playoff game.
Who were the 4 teams?
Travis is sitting right there.
Oh, yeah. Ask Coach Shipper. Where's Coach Shipper at?
I was going to say we should ask Judy, but she's not here.
These are what you call time fillers.
She's put my kids to bed.
Eagle Grove. So it was Pocahontas, Okoboji, Eagle Grove, and Cherokee.
That's right.
It were the 4 teams, and they all kind of beat each other. And so there was a 4-way tie for first. And so we were kind of watching that because we knew they were pretty tough, obviously. And we ended up playing Pocahontas first round of playoffs.
Sub-state. There was that sub-state game.
It was a sub-state game.
It was like the game to get into the playoffs almost is what it was. Yeah.
And that was a hell of a football team. They ran, I call it phone booth off.
Phone booth.
We ran spread offense with our 2 tight end. Wexphone compared to what
we were like freaking Florida State compared to that. Yeah. That was, and what's funny is some of you that are here now, Coach Greg Town was coaching on the Pocahontas team.
Yes, he was. That's 100% right.
At that time.
What do you call that formation? They had the 2 tight ends and then the 2 wing backs, I guess.
Wing
T, there you go.
And so they would toss the ball and the quarterback would lead.
Yeah.
Up the
quarterback
hole.
lead
Single
block.
wing, wing T, yeah.
I remember that. It was, you get a lead blocker and it's a quarterback in the hole. It's like, well, it's
Yeah.
like a rugby match basically at that point.
And so I remember that game was really close, and it was a battle back and forth. And then I watched tape again this year, a while back here, and we did control it. We were never in jeopardy.
Right.
But at the same time, it was just it was one heck of a battle for a sub-state game to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%.
For me, I was like, at least for that looking back, it's like, God dang, 19-6. And they were big and physical. They just brought it.
Yeah, they were tough.
We as a coaching staff, I remember talking to Coach Postman about how we really felt like Pocahontas and Okoboji were by far the two best teams.
For sure.
And right away out of the gate, we get Pocahontas. And we're like, oh, boy, just because of that situation. But we obviously won that game, ended up getting the win.
We were at home that night, weren't we?
We were.
Yeah.
We were at home both games.
Dwayne, I think that was the game I sat out.
Okay.
I think it was
be.
Pocahontas.
Okay.
I don't think it was Okoboji.
Okay.
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 And the fullback there was pretty decent. Kid that was a wrestler, Kendall Summerlot.
Summerlot.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, Summerlot.
That's
just
right.
a bowling ball.
Summerlot, yeah, that name sounds
Like
familiar.
he was built just like Scott, like freaking big old tree trunks, shorter than crap.
Before fat or after fat?
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, before.
Before fat. Okay.
No comment.
You guys want me to show you how to pass block?
He should be good at
it. Stat-wise, we still end up running for 255 yards that night, passed for 58, 313 yards throughout that game. Had 2 fumbles, lost 1. Is this a game you fumbled, Scott? Going.
I think I fumbled Okoboji.
Oh, Okoboji. Okay, we'll talk about that next time.
You bring up my one fumble on the year when Butterfingers next to me. Jordan Gacke had maybe 12.
I'm just talking about the game, Scott.
He can only count so high.
I
get off free.
I guess he asked, "Is this the game?" Not. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
But again, for starting off, one of the all-time, that was probably the toughest first-round game that we've had, and credit to them for what happened. But so moving into game 11, Boynton Hall Rock Valley game, and I think Caleb was going to just talk about that, but
I just thought this was the one game that stood out all year. We were down at halftime, and one thing a lot of people don't know before the game is Jordan came up to me and he said, "Hey, what do you say we give the fans a show? And we'll be down at halftime and we'll come back and win by 2 touchdowns."
This is straight out of the hat.
Yeah, I remember this too, Caleb. I remember at halftime and we were down and we're behind the bleachers, kind of in the corner of there, behind the buses.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't go in anywhere. We were outside, circled the buses.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, God, this could be it. We're going to lose to Boynton Hall Rock Valley, and
Well, I think everybody told us. So that was a joke, obviously, but I think everybody always asked what the coaches told us at halftime that changed everything, and I don't think you guys said anything. I think Toby walked in and he said, "Do you guys really want to end your season against Boynton Hall Rock Valley?" And then we just sat in silence for 15 minutes, and we won the game.
I tell you, I remember this from a coaching standpoint. I remember they were doing a lot of sprint out, roll out passes, and we weren't getting pressure up front. They were good up front, and they had good skill guys. Their quarterback was decent, and they were just beating us on delay. They ran their outside receiver all the way across the field, and they kind of rolled out and they had hit them, and we played our zone defense, and we didn't get. There's just too many gaps, and so at halftime, Coach Schmidt and I we started blitzing Tyler Starr because it was nothing across the middle that was hurting us. It was more or less these long drug out pass plays, and so after that we're and it was empty formation, and you lined up on 3. I don't know if you remember that. You would line up on 3, and you would carry 3 fine, but then they would just open up more lanes for passing. So then we're like, well, we're just going to blitz Star every time. So every time they line up an empty, we blitz Star. If you go back and watch tape, that's right. It was an automatic check, and that was really for Coach.
They had the first ever check with me right there.
Yeah, ever for the first time ever, Coach Schmidt. I'm like, if they line up in empty, we got to send them. And Coach Schmidt was so not kind of against that stuff, and he's like, all right, well that's what we got to do. We'll do that. And so got the corrections made at halftime. They came out in empty. Sent Starr the first time. He hit that quarterback so damn hard. It was like game. It was game over after that. I was like, this is.
Well, and not to mention that I think the first play after halftime, we ran a 60-yard touchdown in, right?
I think you're right.
I think
we scored.
I think
fast.
it was a 17.
No, it was a 5-yard keeper.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, maybe the first play, but one of the first plays I had a 60-yard run that was just wide open for
what it was.
A fullback dive. It was.
Yep.
So, and then we scored shortly after that.
Because they had 237 yards passing that game.
Yeah.
Right. And I think earlier I said they started the year with Heemstra at quarterback, who's 6'8", and they switched to Vandermountain, who could run a little bit, but that also puts Heemstra on the outside. So they had 2 dudes that were 6'8", 6'9".
Yep. Yeah, I think Vandermont was hurt because the year before that he started against us as well.
Yeah, because he was pretty much most of his career. Yeah, He came in as a sophomore already.
So, and then they had 2 6'8" guys on the outside, and they had some good backs too. I think Josh Mao and
Graven, good kid.
Yeah,
big dude.
They were
loaded with talent.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was our last drive. We had the ball. We were on the 20-yard line, and you called a fullback dive, and Scotty broke it for a touchdown. And then after the game, I was getting text messages because I worked in Rock Valley,
Oh, yeah.
I was getting text messages from Travis Drakey and different guys saying, hey, tell Scott thanks for covering the spread. He took a fullback dive into the end zone.
That was a big deal.
Awesome.
You know what? I remember that play now that you say it too, because Jordan handed it off to me, and we kind of had a bad exchange, and that ball was basically on my hip pocket, borderline behind my back, and I don't think they knew I had the ball. So I just ran right up it, and by the time I got it to the front, I was gone.
And I think I remember we got the ball back one more time, and then when the play came into the huddle, it was fullback dive, but actually dive. Don't rub it in their face.
Well, we were a little bit. It was a little bit of a head scratcher. They called that timeout, Toby. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
And screw it, we did what we did.
Yeah.
Covered the spread.
I don't know. I
we covered the spread. That's right.
I stepped away for a second, but I don't know if you talked about it. But our crowd was freaking incredible that night.
It was huge.
Incredible. I remember they had the tailgaters were there early, and they were rocking and rolling. We came off at halftime. Things were a little bit out of sync. Our people were right there cheering for us.
You know, West Line's a big rivalry, but anymore, I feel when we played, I just feel like Boyd and Rock Valley was a bigger win. We had to win that game.
Absolutely.
Because you had respect for West Line regardless, and didn't care.
I'm in the same boat, Caleb. This is a way bigger deal for me, and it still is to this day because I don't know. I think these
Sioux County.
Sometimes I think they're just pretenders. I don't know.
Yeah,
they've had some good teams.
They still won't play us, so it don't matter. So.
Yeah. They don't.
We put them number 1 down on our list to play them this year, and guess what?
Did somebody text message you and say that it wouldn't happen?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. You did tell me that.
You know why?
Is it from Sioux County?
Because when you're a crybaby, you send a note along with it. We don't want to play them guys. Please, 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 please.
This all stems back to when Jordy stiff-armed their head coach and knocked him on his butt and ran in for a touchdown.
Jordan doesn't remember that.
Doesn't remember that.
Usually when we get to this point of the program, we start really telling it like it is.
Okay, moving on to game 12.
Hey, is that Jeff?
Hey, lineman's got to make paper once in a while.
Nice.
Vocal celebration, it says. Mouth open. Again, this game we played Okoboji. Again, we always said Pocahontas and Okoboji were tough. Okoboji had some dudes.
They had some speed, didn't they?
Yeah, their quarterback was huge.
It was a game where they had good athletes. They were a good coaching staff. Coach Shipper was the head coach of that team. Coach Grant was coaching on that team too. He knew Central Lyon pretty well, and it was a makeup. It was a game where Chris Bixman had to clean the field the day of the game because it was snow. Right. Bix had his Suburban out there.
There's snow pile all the way around the track.
We had snow all over the field. It was just one of those classic CLGLR football playoff games that you can remember.
And it wasn't turf pellets in your eyes. It was ice chunks.
Yep. And when you look at the stat line, 24 rushes for 197 yards. Goes back to this past fall, and I've done it many times, but nights like this on that football field here in Rock Rapids, Iowa, it's where legends are born.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of legends have been born on that football field. Jordan Gacke, 24 carries, 197 yards in a big game.
And a torn ACL.
With a bad leg, yeah. Legends are, I said it on the headset this year, but so many times that's been the case over all these years in that Dick Knoll field where we
were struggling, and then that's where I was talking about. Sammy had we had a big screen, like a 28 pass or screen pass to Sammy, that he went a long ways, got us in position to score.
Yeah, he did.
And Sam was a pretty fast kid. And
yeah.
That safety they had caught him really quick.
Yep.
He was pretty fast too.
Yeah.
Their tailback was good. Their quarterback was Studley.
They had a wideout that was good.
They were very.
Yeah, Bergeson
was fast as shit.
He was a bowling ball too.
And they had the Cheddar kid, Matt Cheddar. He was
Cheddar.
a really good wrestler also.
I think he was a year older than us.
Was he?
Yep. Just from wrestling.
Yeah,
I know
that was one of the classic playoff games on our field.
And that's what I mean by the legends being born. 58 rushes, 356 yards. 20 first downs on Dick Knoll Field on a Friday night under the lights. Man, it don't get no better. If you don't get goosebumps on your neck with that, you're brain dead, man.
Did we have a defensive score, or did we have an interception? Did Cody?
Oh,
Cody ran one back, didn't he?
I think Cody picked off a screen
pass. It was kind of a Scott Motter type of thing where he picked it off
ran it down to like the 1.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a big play in that game too.
Yep.
It was like a China screen or right up the middle
China screen.
Well, that's what they call
That's what they call it. Yeah. China screen.
long snapper.
Yeah.
Hey, damn near Mount Rushmore, all right?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Not for football knowledge. But I believe, through that time, it'd be fun to get Coach Shipper on the headset here, just to say the other side of the perspective.
He can steal mine. I've got to go to the bathroom.
Coach Shipper.
Come on over. It's Coach Shipper.
Coach Shipper.
Coach Shipper.
Travis. Come here.
Cody returned the screen pass, 43 yards.
Yeah, down to the 1, I think it was.
Coach Shipper, welcome to the show. I don't know can you guess what game we're going to talk about?
Well, I have no idea.
From your perspective, Coach, honestly, in that game, going in, you had an uphill battle a little bit, but at the same time, you got to feel pretty good about your team.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had really good athletes. I remember preparing for the game and just thinking, I looked at Dave Dwild as our defensive coordinator. I said, we cannot match these guys up front. As our athletes, I think we'll be okay, but we cannot match these guys. And I really actually was pleasantly surprised with how well we held up.
Yeah.
We just couldn't punch it in with you guys. Your defense was so good.
Yeah.
The only score was a big play over the top.
Yeah. Was that early on too?
It was early first quarter or early second quarter, one or the other. I can't remember.
I remember you guys were extremely dangerous. We were worried about them big time going in, about your passing game and your speed with the Bergeson kid. And
44-yard pass.
Yeah, what was the name of your other running back? I think it was
Blake Kliegel.
Kevin James they were both little short guys, quick guys.
Yeah, but bowling balls. I remember hitting them too, and it was.
Yeah.
Usually I won that battle a little lower, but some of those I didn't win with those guys. So.
You might have been taller than both of them.
Yeah.
So, but it was a classic. It was a classic of a playoff game as you could get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who did you guys play in the before that to get in our game then?
First round we played Western, and then second round we played Unity.
Okay.
I just remember you talk about being a sub-state game. All we thought was, Okoboji hasn't been in the playoffs for 20-some years or whatever, is it 1981, and that was the only other time they've been in the playoffs, and we just thought, this doesn't count as playoffs. We cannot get beat by a fourth-place team. We cannot go in here and make the playoffs and get beat by a fourth-place team. We have to win this game.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember during that playoff run, too, instead of every 7 days, it was every like 5 days. So we played like a Friday night,
that's right.
a Wednesday night, and then a Monday night.
Yep.
So within 15 days, we played 3 games.
Yeah.
And the style, obviously, Northwest Iowa plays, I mean, it would just...
Actually, it's 4 games because you played your week 9 on Friday.
Okay.
And then within 2 weeks, you're playing the game that we played.
That's right.
It was a meat grinder for the kids, honestly.
And they got rid of that only a couple years after
2
that,
years ago,
I think. So, okay.
They went to the 32-team playoff thinking that there's teams. This season was a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
Because there was 4 teams in that district. Did you guys get 4th?
We got first.
Okay, yeah, first. Pocahontas got 4th.
Yes.
So Pocahontas got 4th. We got them first round.
And they were damn tough.
They were tough as hell.
Yeah.
And so then
that was our closest game up until the finals.
Yes.
Was a sub-state game.
It was a sub-state. They just get to the playoffs, and that's why that's why the state did it. But it shows that at times you're going to have those type of examples, and
exactly.
That's where going in, Travis. You didn't even know that Jordan tore his ACL.
No.
Until probably after the game or read about it later. But
I don't think I talked until you guys used to wrestle at Okoboji first weekend, and when I talked to you guys there, and you said, he ruptured his ACL. I'm like, holy crap. I just remember, I think he came back in on a 4th down and threw a touchdown pass or some freaking thing. I'm like,
you're right, he did.
They're out, we got him. I'm like, all right.
Get in there, Jordan. You got no choice. Get in there.
I'm like, freaking A. And then, I mean, Dewey talks about legends are made. I mean, you're on this side. I felt like every time we had you guys in place, he made a freaking play. Yep. Like he'd get a first down, he'd just extend the drive. I'm like, God dang it, that kid is really freaking good. And then find out he's on a torn ACL.
It's a classic example of one of those nights. We've had many of those nights, Dewey, over the years in playoffs where, we got to rely on Justin Overman and Curtis Eben, or we got to rely on Boob, or we got to rely on Jordy to get it done, and Jordy did it that night. He got by numerous times. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with you, Travis. Like that night, that kid.
He's
I don't think people will ever understand. You tear your ACL, you shake it off, and come out and still run for 194 yards. Yeah. I mean, let's be real.
Shake it off.
Like I don't know if that's like Spencer Lee-ish type mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
not a wussy, are you?
Jordan, were you more scared to come and to sit out of the game and disappoint your buddies? Or are you more scared how much grief you can get from the coaching staff for sitting out?
Well, first off, you're right. You didn't want to look like a wussy. Because you were going to hear it. But no, it's one of those things. This is your senior year. You want to be out there playing, and you're going to do whatever you can do to get out there.
Okay, this sounds really stupid, but I don't remember even when I found out that he had his ACL tear. Did you even tell us?
I didn't find out that it was.
You didn't find out until after the championship game, did you?
Right, went and saw the surgeon.
Yeah.
That's why I just went and dug out a little knee brace.
The knee brace we had to bend. That one.
Piece it out.
Yeah. Well, Joe said he had the same surgery on a horse, so he. He told
successful.
He told me you're gonna be fine. So I said, all right, Joe, you're good.
You probably did say that too.
That's awesome.
No, that was a great game. That was a keeper forever.
Yeah, Travis. I'm
unfortunately
sorry to ruin your career, but at that time, but at the same time, it's one of those that we talked many times about it, and you've always said when you look back on this team and you appreciate, you have so much more respect, I should say, for them because of how good you guys were. You guys are tough as hell.
How ironic in your wildest dreams you'd ever be coaching here now.
I know, I never thought, and I couldn't be happier.
We couldn't be happier to have you.
Yeah, Travis, were you the head coach that year?
Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, I said that before we even started about Okoboji was actually good that year.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what they have been, so that's a big compliment to you.
It's still the last time they made the playoffs.
Really? We're lucky. We're lucky to have that guy because he coached Okoboji and then he coached the Cherokee, and that was one of their few playoff runs, and he was coaching there too.
Also, the last time Cherokee made the playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
I was in the restroom, but didn't Hank Grant?
Did
they say that or not?
Yeah, he brought the farm over there.
Yeah.
He protected the farm.
Yeah. I'm not tired yet.
I remember after we definitely got off the streets and got our fluids in us too.
Coach Lumpkins is just barely hanging on.
I remember talking to Toby. We went up to a clinic, and I was telling him, complaining about Hank, and Toby just looks at me and goes, "You're just living my life 10 years later."
That's right. No, we're lucky. I said we're lucky. You guys are lucky to have
absolutely.
Trav. I was the head coach of the Shrine Bowl in 14, and I'd gotten to know Trav fairly well by then. He was one of my assistants, and when he applied at Central Lyon, Kurt and I talked about it. We were just glad to have you, Trav.
Yeah, look, we're just happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
It's such a great community, great program. Obviously, it's been awesome. Happy my boys are going to be a part of it too.
Good,
Yeah,
you
so
bet.
the boys are 8th grade coming up.
You
It's
bet.
gonna be fun. So got some studs coming. So we got some Jordan geekyisms to live up to for that. So
yeah, they got a long ways. Their genetics are going to hold them back.
Thanks, Trav.
Thanks for having me.
Again, big win at home led us into the Dome, right? I mean, that was getting that win and walking on that field that night. I felt like it was a big relief because there was a lot of pressure, right? I mean, pressure or whatever, but we knew we had the dudes to do it. And, with the guys that we had, but we had a lot of unknowns going in, but getting to that Dome was like, I just felt was a big pressure relief. Like, for you guys, it was probably like another day. Don't care.
Sammy! Oh, baby!
Sam House, baby!
Yeah. Hey, give him a wine cooler.
Don't give him a flu shot. Hey, Sam.
Have you been listening, Sam?
Have you been listening?
Oh, baby!
Hey, Sam, if they give you a wine cooler, is your dad going to come in the office tomorrow?
Dylan.
You just missed it. We were just bragging about you in the Okoboji game, buddy. You got it.
Oh, wrong time to walk in. But again, leading into getting into that Dome, getting on that turf, it was for us, for our coaching staff, for you guys, everything paid off.
Just to speak on that, Kurt, as seniors now too, the last 2 years we had gotten to the Dome and the state championship, and that was kind of a little pressure too to live up to the expectations, and so exactly what you said.
That's a good point, Scott, and that's part of what makes programs like ours what they are, but it also adds that pressure a little bit.
Yeah,
it does.
And it's not a bad pressure.
Nope.
It's probably good, but it's just
Depends how you handle it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you guys
true.
You guys are mentally tough. You guys are that type of physical, get her done type of group. That's why I felt so good about it. Like, we just had tough dudes. Our offensive line was just tough guys.
Yep.
Like, you didn't see a lot of that. But you guys, that's what, for me, I guess, the pressure getting to the Dome and finally making it and just doing it. Once we get to the Dome, I felt really good about it.
Again, as I said, out of those 06, 07, 08, we were incredible in 06, but I just felt like we had the dudes in 08. I just really felt like that was the dudes that was really going to get it done, and obviously the IKM game was the first step in that one once we got on the turf.
So going to that game, I don't remember a lot about this game.
No, for some reason
I remember
don't either.
zero. I thought we played Carol Kemper 2 years in a row.
I remember these two about both
One
becoming,
memory. That's the only memory.
becoming paraplegic.
Yes, I would agree with you, Coach.
On a field goal block.
I got a picture of that still. You guys still have that picture?
Oh, I just watched. I'd send a Snapchat to Jordan.
Oh my gosh!
Earlier today, like 5:30, I was going through the last couple.
I've never seen two dudes hit each other harder than you.
That was the hardest hit I took in my career, and of course it was on Jordan.
And of course, we both missed it.
Yeah, I know.
So we have never sent two guys off the edge ever since then.
Well, I will say, I'll have Beekles back on this one because this once again is the only memory from that game I have. Is that I never rushed on PATs. Beekle did. But there was something that I was extremely pissed off about. I'm like, we're switching. So I'm coming off the edge because we only ever did one, and those two guys knew which one was coming and which one wasn't. Well, Scott thought he was on. I'm like, well, I'm fucking going.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't know.
We met at the ball, just didn't hit the ball.
Yeah. I remember that game. You guys hit each other, and you both laid there, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, boy.
Yeah.
You got our starting quarterback and starting fullback laid on the ground grunting.
Yeah. Good move.
Four positions plus the punter.
Yeah. And I think we both missed some plays, too, on the following drive on offense because, I don't know.
It was
I think
scary.
I had the wind knocked out of me at ribs. And
It was way scarier.
who knows what Jordan, he's always hurt.
It's
so.
a pretty good picture, though. You're right.
It was a great picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you didn't have a torn ACL, you would have made the block.
But that's about the only thing I remember about that game.
Yeah.
I don't remember hardly anything about that game at all.
I remember T-Star coming across the middle, hitting some dude, and his arms just being stuck up here and walking all the way up the sideline.
I think that was Kemper.
I don't think so because it was in the dome. I swear it was IKM.
Well, so was Carol Kemper the year before, but I don't know.
No, I agree with you guys. I don't remember anything about this game.
I feel like there was another swing pass too that was out to the flat, and I just remember one of our defensive backs just coming and absolutely laying the lumber to a kid out in the flat as they caught the ball.
Yep.
But like reading about it, I remember in the newspaper it said like it was the hardest hitting game. I don't know which coach was talking in the newspaper, but they had kind of been a part of.
Yep.
But it was probably because of Scott and Jordan hitting each other.
Didn't I remember? didn't Andrew Eben have a long interception return on that game? If I remember right. I thought he did. I thought in the dome he had a big interception and returned it.
Call me out on things I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody else. For some reason, this game is blank to me. I read the articles.
We were focused on the championship.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good skill position players though.
Like I said, I just knew going in as like I just felt like okay, let's get this game.
Derek and Andrew both had interceptions in the fourth quarter. Derek returned his 20 yards and Eben returned his 55 yards.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I knew he had a long one right down our sideline. I remember he had one. He got caught, but he had a long return.
So how do you guys remember this stuff? Obviously, you coach every. I can't remember it. How do you guys remember it?
It's a good question.
Because we didn't run into Jordan Gacke.
One of the ways that it does for me, Scott, is when I read these articles, it brings things back very well. But otherwise, they're not just laying there.
Yeah.
But when you read the articles, it does bring things back very well. But this IKM game doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, me either.
Doesn't.
But I want to, if you would have bet me $100 what colors they were, I would not have guessed it until I watched the game. And
colors.
I still don't. Okay, not a good. Honestly, I still don't know what color they are.
Me and you would have been in the same boat, Scott.
Yeah.
We still guess it right.
Yeah, right.
For those of you out there wondering, they're both colorblind.
For some reason, Scott, I remember every game all the way through, and obviously, anytime we're on that dome floor, I remember all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's the deal, Scott. I think, for me, obviously, you're my brother, and I watched you guys grow up together, right? So it had a special meaning to me. Same thing as my son now going through it. I'm going to remember this because it has a special meaning. Yeah. I remember ironic situation when I came back. So I came back in 2005 and started coaching. 06 we win it. 07 we're in the finals. 08 we're in the finals. I remember going downtown tonight with Coach Postman. We were sitting there talking about, and he goes, "Oh, buddy, this don't happen very often." And I thought to myself, oh hell, we're doing this every year.
Yeah.
Because
back in the '90s, I thought the same thing.
Because you just think that this is how life is.
That's what I was going to ask you, Dewey. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know, if you're at a program where you don't win at all, you don't remember anything. But when you're a program that is successful and everybody expects it to be successful, you remember that stuff. You remember it all, especially when you're the coaches.
And I think kids. And then I think Coach Lorenzo remembers it because Jamie, your daughter, was was the same class as you guys. So I think like for that part. But again, there are seasons that you just remember more than others, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it was a special group of guys, and for me it was a special group of guys that completely stepped up. That took not the Scott Ebens or Jordan Gage's or Jeff Gage's or Caleb Montags or Tyler Stars. For me, it was the Eric Timmermans. It was the Jordan Wagner's.
The guys you didn't expect a whole lot from.
You think we expected and we knew that you guys are going to be dudes. And it was just a matter of those other guys coming through, and what we were going to get out of them. And looking back, that's where for me the appreciation of the program and buying in, and for them, even our backup offensive linemen, like Chris Scrolls, the Jake Groans, some of those guys that maybe they didn't play how they play snap, but they made us better every day in practice, and the accountability and the just that type of camaraderie and within practice, for me it was like that was special, and you tend to remember those things even more than the situations that maybe you should. But
hopefully you guys,
since we don't have to talk about the last game of the year,
we're not talking about.
I was going to bring up other thing is this was Coach Schmidt's last year.
Yep,
I was watching the tape and they showed a special ceremony he had on the home field. And the other thing I was going to bring up, I forgot already. So go ahead.
You're right. It was Coach Schmidt's last year, and
I was going to ask you about I was going to ask you guys about anything as far as like the summer program going in. You remember about the summer lifting program with Snide?
Yeah. I got
the one thing I remember.
I got one thing.
Well, the one thing I remember before you said
maybe it's the same.
That guy right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scotty. Let's talk about Dylan Reynolds now.
Yeah. So 7 o'clock rolls around, summer lifting. We start, and everyone's there except Dylan Reynolds. So a lot of days he'd send me and Jordan Gacke down to his house because Dylan only lived about a block away from the gym. So me and Jordan Gacke would just walk in his house, wake his ass up. Dylan, get your ass up. It's time to lift. Yeah, I'm coming. and it was like, it's a good thing you live close because otherwise we probably would.
And for some reason he'd show up without his shirt on and have handprints all over his back and stuff from you guys slapping.
Oh, I didn't know that was something different.
No, that's what it was, Scott.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Just kidding, Steph. That's just where my mind goes.
But I remember, and maybe Snide remembers more. What I remember is how Snide would push you guys. He'd get on you guys' case almost daily about stuff and make you work. I mean, you think about how far you came in the weight room, and some of you guys came in the weight room over the years, and Snide's got a huge part into that. But he would bust you guys' ass every day in that weight room all summer long.
When I was working night shift all summer.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So I would show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and these guys are like, dragging ass. I've already eaten all my meals for the day. I'm gonna go lift and go to bed.
I forgot about that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember that process happening.
That's right.
I remember in the spring because you and Mitch didn't go for track, and we
Scott. Yeah, we all.
I didn't either. Yeah,
Scott didn't either. When we lifted and just the time we spent together, it was special. Honestly, we spent a lot of time.
Freshman year into sophomore year, Scott and I gained.
Actually,
so much strength
Sam
with
joined us too, because Sam skipped his sophomore and junior year because he was golfing.
And then he was a hurdle phenom.
So then he actually showed up his senior year, started lifting with us. Or actually junior year, going to his senior year. So
tell him.
But these guys were good in the weight room. They worked hard. They were they were solid. We had our morning program going like crazy at that time, and these dudes showed up every day and worked their tails off.
I remember that going to morning lifting for 2 hours or whatever, and then Me and Jordan would go shingle,
Go shingle all day.
10 hours after
I'd
that.
sit on the
and
roof
talk-
on my ass.
Yeah, well, you only shingled for like a week, and then you didn't get ass back. So
Hey, your boss fired you after that.
I didn't lift in the weight room either. I just kind of rotated around to the back.
you're worried about drinking water and Gatorade to make weight for an imaginary thing you had going.
What it all kind of boils down to, I think, what you're saying, Tobe, is that, and there's some parents sitting here tonight too at the brewery, but what it all boiled down to is these kids and parents, they bought in.
Oh, yeah.
They believed in what we were selling. They bought in, and boy, when you get a bunch of studly young men like this buying in, there's a lot of neat stuff you can accomplish.
Yep. You know, and parents take a bad rap, but there was a lot of parents in this class that were totally on board, and were some of the best parents that we ever had to deal with, Dewey, over the years. Some are sitting in this bar right now.
And it kind of comes down to, we talked about so many program kids. Those program kids made it because they bought in.
Yep.
They bought in, and their parents bought in, and they drove them from George and Little Rock and Dune and Rock Rapids, and they bought into the weight program that Snide put out, and we pushed the shit out of them, and they did what they did. You know, you celebrate. I always say we were a runner-up team that year, your year. The last game doesn't even exist as far as I'm concerned. But you sometimes you want to forget the championship game, but you celebrate the season, and that's what we're doing tonight.
Yep.
That was an amazing season, an amazing run.
And honestly, that state championship game, we need to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
it.
we
I was going to say.
It was way different than the actual score.
It was way different.
For me, I believe it was 2014 at halftime.
Okay, it was
actually 26.
It was a tight game
Yeah,
at
it
halftime.
was.
I remember
It was a good ball game.
It was a lot like 07 at halftime.
We had a great game plan that
We
did.
did.
We really did.
It was a new one, midline option.
Yeah,
Midline
exactly.
option.
Freaking went
I
right
remember
down.
that.
Yep.
And we executed the shit out of it,
did.
too.
Jeff doesn't know what the hell that means. So if you
All I remember is
He doesn't need to. He just needs
all
to.
I remember, Montag and I had
care.
one assignment. Every single play, whoever's not on the tackle, you're hitting James Morris.
That's right.
You're hitting James Morris. I don't care if you hit him in the back. I don't care if you hit him on the side, but you're hitting James Morris.
And that's right, too. That's what it boiled down
Absolutely.
to. Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about that game is, having played in the game the year before, where we lost by 8 points, 9 points, it was weird. We lost by 40 or 50 in this game. The year before, it felt like we lost by more.
Yeah.
Because this game, we actually had traction. Like, we actually broke big plays, and we put together successful drives, and we stopped them. They had to punt. The year before, it was like, on the offensive side, I felt like we couldn't do anything. And so that was a weird thing for me. I remember, like, getting done with the game and thinking about it all. Just, it felt like we had traction, but we couldn't. Something happened throughout the game.
I felt that way. I felt that way for a while. And then at the end, I told Coach Plesky on the headset, I said, is this what it feels like to have a stroke? I can't feel my legs, Coach.
I think I know what happened. Jordan Gacke's one of my best friends, but when you cough it up, I don't know, five times in one game.
The wheels fall off.
The wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Scott,
the ACL was
Scott, he won in with a flat tire.
Yeah.
The fucking wheel fell off.
By that time, the ACL was down in his ankle.
Torn ACLs cause fumbles. We all know that.
I was just going to say, you got a flat tire doesn't mean the motor quits.
To be honest with you, Scott.
Oh, man.
To be honest with you, Scott.
Bringing this up all these years later.
Oh, he knows. If he wasn't my friend, I wouldn't say it.
I will say, Scott and I have had some times together that, coming from anybody, not this guy over here pointing at my brother, I'll take the story from Scott because he's always had my back. I mean, he has. I mean, there's been times we met in Cedar Falls. Not the one you guys are thinking of.
Well, yeah, there was a.
But long story short, This guy's always had my back. So.
Well, and
a lot of times I didn't want to, but I did.
Just to clarify that a little bit, to take a little bit off Jordan, I'll speak for myself. I put some, I think we as coaches need to take a little bit of that because, and I remember telling Toby that let's just do whatever we can with the guy that got us here. Mm-hmm. And we put a lot of shit on his back to cause some of these turnovers and some of this the ball rolling downhill, snowballing into scores. Yep. We could have kept that game to a 21, 28-point game. We could have.
Anybody
and I'm going to take part of the blame because I was in Toby's ear. Just let him go. Let him do what he can do because he's our guy.
Anybody that's been
But it wasn't fair.
Yeah,
it was not fair.
Anybody that's been involved in football a long time, you're going to have games like that. Unfortunately, that was the game that happened. It was just that point.
And we can blame the coaches. We can blame the coaches.
Yeah,
well, you can, Caleb, because that has bothered me since it happened.
Yeah. I always joked to my wife. I said that's going to be on my headstone. He got beat 60 to whatever against Solon. That'll be on my headstone someday.
Yeah, I think at the time that was a state record.
Probably still is.
Probably still is. No, it's not. It's not. I monitored it's not anymore. It's not anymore.
Rest easy, Coach. Rest easy.
It's not. Easy. It was like 5 years later it was broken. I'm like, good. Good.
I remember we going.
All of a sudden I started sleeping better.
I remember that game though. Like I don't feel like there was a time on the sideline where the seniors in that class said we're freaking screwed. Like I remember coming out at halftime, we were ready to run through that garage door. Like I remember T-Star literally bear crawled under that fucker.
I
remember another part of that game is it was halftime. We were down a little, and T-Star gave one hell of a halftime.
halftime speech.
One hell of a halftime speech. The only problem is we had to sit around another 5 minutes. So we're all hyped up, and it's like,
it up good.
A little premature.
Is that door coming up?
You guys lost your mojo. Like, whoa, okay, we're back out there.
That's an example, where you guys weren't defeated. You were pissed. You were defeated. You were pissed.
Yeah.
Even at the end, you weren't. None of us were defeated. We were pissed at the end, and that was how it ended. But yeah,
still pissed.
I actually ran into Greg Morris here 2 weeks ago, James Morris's dad, and talked to him for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever down there, and. He just has the uttermost respect for our program. Mm-hmm. Still talks about those games, and so you see the other side of things, and you realize we lost that game, not like we wanted to, but at the same time, it was enough. It was what we did and how we did things. It was honorable and respectful, and they knew how good we were. Put it that way.
Yeah. I know we're talking a lot of shit here, but they were probably the better team.
Yeah,
it's not like fumbles or coaching. They were the better team.
They were tough.
So for everyone listening,
I remember it was early in the first quarter, and Jay breaks one to the left, and he tried cutting, and he fell. And I remember on the headset, I think I was talking to Coach Van Beek or whatever. I go, oh boy, like he's done for, because you couldn't.
It happened a couple times. Throughout the last couple games.
Yeah, you couldn't cut at all. Normally I'd be like, yep, he's gone. And you made one cut and you fell, and I'm like, oh boy, and so we were at what we were at, but and that's part of the game, and that's where you start realizing things, and then things started falling off, and Morris took over. That's all.
That's at a point.
And he was a pretty good damn football player.
Have you guys ever seen Friday Night Lights, the movie with Boobie Miles?
Yep.
His dad's in the stands saying he can run, he can block, he can paint your fence, he can do all this. And then at the end, they do like a trick play, and he goes, and he can pass. Well, James Morris did that against us, too. He threw
it
like
was
50 yards in the air on the dot. It's like, geez.
Yeah, he was a freaking dude.
He was.
That's why he played in the league for 3-4 years.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about before. Any team but that were 3 in a row, 3 years in a row there, and obviously we were banged up in 07. That'll be some other year. We'll talk about that. But
Yeah, that's the one that's going to bite me.
right.
You're right, Scott. I do believe in 06, or sorry, 08. They might have been, if we play that game 10 times, I don't know if we win a game.
No, I agree.
They had a lot of speed. I mean, anytime they get to the outside,
They
we
were
couldn't get to them.
fast. They were good. They were very well coached. Coach Miller did a nice job. Well, everything about it.
I guess I don't have any regrets about that game. Like you said, it's not like, oh, nail biter, we should have done this or that. It was
the 07
it was
team,
what it was, and you live with it.
Yeah,
so.
the 07 team is different. That one's going to bite me until I go to my grave. But
yeah.
No, and that's credit to you guys, and like looking through this season and reminiscing through it all, and especially me because of these guys sitting here. I grew up with you. I mean, I saw you guys progress through life, and that's what's so special to me personally as a coach. But what a year! Like honestly, I don't think people realize how tough it is to get to where you guys ended.
Yeah.
I mean, we take it for granted, right? Like our program maybe a little bit, but you guys went from 06, 07, 08. But you guys were from 08 until 2020. Last time we hit the dome.
Yeah.
So as much as everybody's like, oh, but it's like it takes a very special group of guys to buy in, to be part of it, and you guys were that group for 12 years. We spent without hitting that dome floor from you guys.
I remember even our sophomore year we win it, and then to our junior year we're thinking, oh man, we lose a lot of good talent, a lot of good athletes. Then our junior year we make it. And then our junior year, obviously we talked about this earlier, we lose a lot of starters when we got 4 or 5 returning starters, and I just thinking to myself, never out loud, it's like coming back, it's like, Jesus, we lost a lot of people, and you're talking earlier about the program guys and all that. Well, going into the year, you don't expect, or think about what's coming up, and you're thinking,
bank on it.
how in the hell are we going to get back to what we were with?
And it's always a little harder when you're a player because you don't see the outside picture.
Yeah.
And so I think the trust that you guys put in the coaching staff to let those guys do what they did.
Yeah.
Moving Jeff to center, Eric Timmerman to safety,
Yeah.
the Andrew Ebens that step up, the Jordan Wagners that did what they did, the Davis Shoes, Cody Zone, and like
Mitch Vogt, all those guys.
The Mitch Votes. Those are things that you start putting those pieces together. And then on top of that, you have the Nick Zillmans, you have the Isaac Zillman. Nick
Cody
Bixman.
and
Bixman.
Yeah.
Isaac Zillman. Some of the guys that played valuable roles within that team. You start realizing, like, wow, we're going to make this work. This is going to be going the right direction.
Even guys like Mitch Van Briesen, the backup quarterback. I mean,
3 huge juniors are Lucas and Mitch Van Briesen and Nate Herman. Like, they played a lot of snaps when
on defense.
Jordan or Scott were down.
Yeah.
And then you get like Houston Pratt and Brendan McComas playing D
Yeah,
tackle,
they did. They
spelling Cody and David because they're playing both ways of the line.
Yeah.
When I remember
a lot of games where those kids got a lot of reps too.
I remember getting out of surgery in the spring of 08, so it would have been before the senior year. And Dewey pulls me into the classroom like the first day, and he's like, "We got to start planning this offensive line. Who are we thinking?" And I remember I just wanted to look at him and be like, I'm not playing next year. I was in so much pain, and I was so sick of just being laid up, and I didn't want to play.
Right.
I hated practice. I lost the whole offensive line was gone.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, that was just like a moment, of being in that state.
Yeah.
And then as it progressed, it's like Jeff's playing center, and I'm like, seriously, we're gonna let this guy play center? But no, I'm being serious.
But
seriously, yeah. But I'm being serious.
But that's the thing for you guys. That's where things. You saw you guys
we played so much football together.
We did.
Yeah.
And I think from the players' perspective, looking back, I mean, you guys, we went the 2 previous years. I mean, we had the bar set up here. We knew what the expectation was, and just the amount of football that we had played together. We also knew what we could do, and we refused to give up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and whether or not we were the best athletes, we were gonna win the game.
Yeah, yes,
you know,
yeah, I would
and
agree.
just wear them out if that's what it meant. But
It wasn't so much about winning; it was we're not fucking losing. That was my perspective. It wasn't like winning was so great because you just got used to it. It was when you lost a game, you remembered it and felt that it was we're not losing, and then you win. That was the bar, you know. So.
Yeah, but we don't have a lot of dudes that are like. I'll speak for you two, especially like when you go from football seasons winning it, runner up, to going to wrestling season, you win it, runner up. I mean, like that's a special group
Going
of
to
guys.
track season and always winning it.
Jordan winning.
Yep.
So Jordan, you won it your sophomore year in football, your sophomore year in track, runner up your junior year in. No, then you went to sub-state. Did you go sub-state in baseball that year?
Sophomore,
No, not sophomore.
won the wrestling.
That was our
sophomore.
You won it your sophomore year and
Junior year.
And then your junior year, you got
CO6 champs.
Runner up.
Say, boys.
Runner up in football, champ in wrestling.
That was it.
See what it's track, nothing. And then
senior year, runner up football, and then
sub-state
baseball.
So you played
That's
baseball
it?
your senior year. Okay. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
See, sometimes I think I was a good athlete, and it's like, oh yeah, I played a Jordan Gacke. It's like, oh yeah, I was just.
Hey, try being his twin brother, Scott. Try being his twin brother. Enough said. We're done.
Hey, did this really happen?
Was I really on the team?
You're on your recruiting business, you and I, for football. You're walking around, and some guy's walking by, he shakes hands, and the football coach says, "Who's that?" He goes, "That's the guy I beat in the state championship in wrestling the year before." Was that true or not? I always heard that. Not true?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't recall that
Okay.
one.
Got it.
It's probably true.
The memory totally
Very good
is.
chance. Very good chance.
But here's what I was going to say is, I mean, obviously, and I probably should have said this earlier when you guys were doing the Mount Rushmore. Certainly appreciate the comments you guys had, but I would say growing up as a football player, you know, I remember. It's weird the memories that you remember, you know. And we had a film session in a fall camp, and I remember seeing Boovie showing highlights, and Boovie was spinning and high stepping. And then growing up, you're watching Overmans or Keel, and then obviously Nate Young. And then you have an offense tailored around the position that you're playing. And then you got a fullback like Scott. I'm looking at Scott next to me. He's either getting the ball or he's running the guy over on a foul. So it's just one of those things where it's set up for you, and it's just it's a privilege to be able to play that position in this offense.
And we never did talk about the fact that if we ran a 17 wedge, every team in the country knew what we were running, and Scott would still get the first down.
Yeah, we didn't
Our
care.
splits, our splits are half as wide.
Yeah,
I remember that too. It
Or
was.
a 28 down block with Dylan Reynolds getting the first down.
I don't even remember what games it was. I just remember we'd be in a 4th and 1 or something, and we'd go to a timeout, and Toby would look at the offense line, 17 wedge. Yeah, that's what we're doing. You know, and Scotty would just plow it right in.
Yeah.
And it was just a no-brainer. And I took a screenshot when we were watching film this week of some of those games where the box is just packed. I mean, there was just people coming down on that spot, and it would still just move forward.
We'd always
It
laugh.
was like a flying V on
We'd always
geese,
laugh.
I would just sneak behind and not try to step on ankles, and
We'd always laugh.
It's pretty easy to do
Yeah,
it.
we'd always say, we don't give a shit. We don't care if everybody in the whole place knows what we're doing. Stop us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Stop us.
100%.
Yeah.
Watching film, I couldn't remember. It surprised me how many guys just submarined at me and Caleb as center and guard.
Oh, yeah.
Because
there's
they
a
knew
lot
what we were
of
going to
them.
do. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember that playing high school.
I
I
don't
remember
either.
getting into guys and blocking them,
But
there's
that-
so many times where I'm just laying on top of a guy because he took out my knees.
And that's where Scott was really talented, and Jordy too. And Dylan and Jordy and Scott I'd say were the best. But it would be like people come down and they could recognize they needed to get over, get up or something.
Or to the side.
You know, and if you didn't have an experienced back there, it would, like if we were subbing someone in, they just didn't get that, and it would be down at the line of scrimmage, and that was always really frustrating.
Very good point.
I was going to ask you guys, what impact did your big brothers have as far as, you guys with Josh and you with Kurt, as far as being looking forward to playing at CLGLR football?
Absolutely nothing.
No, I'm just kidding. I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was
it was probably the world to me, to be honest. It was, everything. I don't know if I would have gone to games when I was younger if Kurt didn't play, because we lived out in the country and everything, and our parents weren't really football fans unless we were playing, I guess. So, it was, growing up, I guess that was my hero. It was my brother, from high school games and going on to USF and being runner-up a lot there. That's where I got it from. And no, I'm just kidding. But no, it seriously did mean a lot. So I was about to get sappy there. I thought I'd snap out of it.
How about you guys with Josh? I know you guys were quite a bit younger, but
But Jeremy too. Jeremy played in 98.
Absolutely. Jeremy, yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, I would say I remember going to more of Josh's college games than I do his high school games. And growing up, we got the question a lot because, like you said, we're a lot younger. Were we accidents? And I always said I was. They wanted Jordan.
He's been sitting on that one, boys.
Well, I'm glad.
Wow.
I'm glad.
Oh my God!
I've
the
never
comment
heard
of the night. That is the best comment of the night.
Wow!
Holy shit! That just happened.
All right. Good night.
I wish everybody in this place would have heard that.
Oh,
Jeff, you fuck. Oh, that's funny. You are something.
So the one thing I would say is that one thing it did with us is we were always outside playing football, or we were doing something. We were terrible at video games. We go play with buddies and just get our ass kicked, but that's because that's not something we did. We were always outside playing.
Yep.
And I think that was a huge impact.
There's a lot of siblings though that were all part of that team.
And those years at least. DeYoung, Justin, and Nate, and Mitch and Brad and Herdas, I guess. And it was,
You guys remember when you were younger with some of the '90s teams?
All we ever did was play football up on the hill. We didn't ever watch the games.
Did you remember watching Adam Boovie when you were young?
I don't have
Roger Meyer, some of them guys.
That would have been Josh's senior year,
right.
Roger's senior year.
Yeah. Okay, so you definitely
they were 4, 5. They were 5 at the time.
Yep. Pretty young.
My first really memories watching Kurt, I guess, and I would have been 9, I think, his senior year.
Yeah.
So, like these guys said, we were on the
Jeremy
hill
was
playing.
I remember the block field goal on the
or
dome.
whatever the correct.
It's the only thing I remember.
Well, they always say that for a program, it's a hell of a lot harder to stay on top as a program than it is to build to the top.
Yeah.
And there's no question that that's true. But I'm going to tell you guys something. It sure makes it a lot easier with guys like you guys to stay on top.
Thank you.
At this point where we are today, guys, we're on top, and and it's because of kids like you guys at that age and signing autographs and going and playing in the end zone and kicking ass during high school games. Watching legends being made.
What
that kind of
sucks is
stuff.
that Jordan and Jeff live in Sioux City, and their kids are going to probably go to Sergeant Bluff or something. So I don't know they're going to probably be cheerleaders. I don't know what's going to happen. Jordan.
I might have become a coach now after that comment. I don't know.
You guys know what Sergeant Bluff Luton stands for, don't you? Sports before learning. That comes out of Sioux City. I've heard this from Sioux City people.
Jordan.
Their kids are going to get.
You cannot tell me that doesn't just burn you a little bit that your kids are going to Sergeant Bluff.
It's a new home.
Just moved to town.
Oh. Abby, you're killing me over there.
Their kids are going to get the special teams traits, long snapper and punter. By the way, we didn't mention this. Jordan probably could have been an all-state punter, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, probably didn't have to punt it a whole lot, but.
Toby, when does your career starting as head coach line up with when we were entering kindergarten?
95 was my first year. So right there.
So 98 is when, because I always felt like, a big part of where our team was with the dynamic and the trust and everything was, you were our kindergarten PE teacher. So everybody's favorite class, you were the guy. And you were always so good, like it didn't matter if it was the kid, who smelled really bad or the prettiest kid in the room or whatever. You made them, everybody was like on the, you made everybody feel just welcome and happy. And then you would bring in the football players down there, and we all thought that was just the coolest thing.
I think it made us probably try harder in PE class too, knowing our
he's the
PE
guy.
teacher was our head football.
I mean,
honestly,
I try to sprinkle in a lot of that football with you guys. If I remember right, you guys were like, every day you came into PE was like the national championship. It didn't matter if we were playing dodgeball, if we were playing tag, whatever. It was national championship with you guys. It was just a matter of, we already knew who the leaders were, who the guys were going to do this, who the guys were going to be this. It's crazy at that age. I can already see that. But yeah, you guys were a special bunch when it started already on that.
But yeah, I guess where I'm going with that is I think by the time we got to high school, after spending 13 years under your wing, we trusted everything you told us. We believed in you as a leader, and like that was a big part of it.
Yeah, I really think that and Dewey and I have talked about this so many times too, and Kurt has too. How much the continuity of that.
Yeah.
The continuity of our coaching staff, the continuity of our coaches being here all the time, and that all plays into it, I think.
This thing is now a three generational thing moving into 4.
Yep.
From which we talked about in our last podcast.
Because you realize he was in kindergarten when I had him in kindergarten so it's been around a long time, and Dewey and I have gone through the whole scheme of that with that, along with Terry.
So you can probably feel that too.
Terry and Keith, and
you can relate, can't you, Chris?
It's coming.
This is like a 3 generational traditional thing.
But that's where you live off. That's what the Harlans do. That's what all those programs that are those kind of programs that we are in that level now are because of that stuff too. Guaranteed.
And we're not done yet, boys.
No, but the thing is, like,
we're not done yet.
You can talk about a lot of the stuff we just talked about, but the community-wise, I see Chris Bixman over there. That Chris is a huge part of our football program, and he's never coached, but he's been part of our quarterback club. Chris, how many years were you on? Chris, how many years are you quarterback club president?
16 years.
16 years.
That's what I'm talking about,
but
that kind of stuff.
Those are the things that people don't understand and appreciate for the standpoint of our football program.
Exactly what I'm talking about. The Joe Geekies of the world, the Alan Evans of the world, Al Montag and I, we paint together, and we'll talk about this podcast the whole summer this summer. I guarantee it. The Alan Cools, you name it, you go right down the list. Mike Votes, and those, you just got tons of guys that have been involved with it. But you hit it right on the head, Kurt, with Chris. Those are the epitome of why the program continues what it is.
Yeah, it was. Thinking back to it, like even in high school, it was great because you go to. Saturday mornings you go to the gas station to get some breakfast pizza or a Gatorade, and you end up talking to 3-4 people on your way just about the game last night, and they knew who you were and everything like that. It made you feel like a superstar, I guess. A small town superstar.
Recently, I was talking to Dr. Joe Murphy, our dentist in town. When I was in high school, he was at that age, and he remembers idolizing the guys back then. And then you get to the 90s teams when there were guys that idolized that group of guys. And then there were kids from today that were idolizing you guys at that time. That's what we talk about when we're talking about tradition and maintaining the high standards of kicking ass and winning tradition, and parents and kids buying into it because you have grown up with it, and we're right there yet today.
And we are. We really, like this year, these guys probably haven't heard this story, but I'm going to repeat it one time. But this year, before our state championship game, I ran into Kurt Ritchie, who was the head coach for Williamsburg, who were playing, and we're standing there in the hallway talking, and Coach Ritchie goes to me, he goes, "So where do you get you guys from?" I said, "Their mom." And he goes, No, like where they come in from. I go, "No, they came from their moms." And he goes, No, like Sioux Falls, Laverne, like Worthington, like where do you get you guys from? And I go, "Coach," I go, "These kids are born and raised in Rock Rapids, George Little Rock area, Dune. Like these are our guys. They've been in our school system the whole time." He looks at me and he goes, No. And I go, No, they really are. They are homegrown kids. He goes, "Oh." He goes, "Of all of our seniors, 4 of them played 8th grade football with us. Holy cow. The rest of them moved in."
Moved in or open enrolled in or whatever.
And so then you start realizing, and Weiskopf, number 12, an Iowa commit. He's a Bell playing kid. And
28 miles.
He's a 4-star. He's a 4-star recruit, and he drove 29 miles every day to go to school at Williamsburg. And so you start realizing like the impact, like the small town community. And I literally walked away thinking I wanted to beat them so bad.
Yeah.
It was game on after that. It was like clear mind, focus. We're gonna beat these guys because I couldn't stand it. Like it drove me nuts. Going back to the locker room, I just wanted to. I was cringy.
Yeah.
Like knowing
not how high school sports should be.
But and that's the reality of somehow life is.
No, it is.
But not around here, right? Like
exactly.
Started in 7th grade, didn't it, boys?
Yeah, and that's what's special. And that I just bring that up because it is that, and there's so much pride within this group. But we're gonna finish. Let's keep going on here, but. Talking about 2008 season, team rushed for 3,859 yards. I believe that was a record until this year, right, Coach? This year's team broke that record, but it was a record held for a lot of years. Jordan rushed for 1,805 yards, had 7.6 yards average. That year, still a record. Scott was second, 548 yards, 4.3 average. Dylan was third with 474 yards with 4.7. The team had 62 receptions for 943 yards. Tyler Starr had 23 receptions for 312 yards, 13.5 average. The team averaged 343 yards of offense per game, 32.7 yards per game throughout that year. Defensively,
points. What? You said.
Points per game,
okay,
32.7 points per game.
I think you said yards.
Sorry. Yep.
I didn't. Okay.
And Scott's yardage, that was on half the games.
Yeah.
With his injury.
Yeah. Probably would have had 1,000.
Yeah,
Probably would have had 1,000 if he would have been healthy the whole year.
Yeah, Scott had 548 yards and missed six games on offense. So you're right. Defensively, gave up 154 total points, 11 points per game. Led by Jordan, had 159 tackles. Tyler Starr had a 128. Scott had 101. We had 3 guys with over 100 tackles on the year.
I'm telling you, that stat guy loved me. That's 5-6 games and 100 tackles.
Dave Holstein.
I don't know, but I'm just saying those numbers don't add up.
Derek Johnson led the team in interceptions with 4. Our guy.
He made a lot of big interceptions.
He had good hands.
Watching tape, he was a very underrated athlete.
Absolutely.
He was very fast.
Well,
he was.
He didn't put in much effort.
No, he didn't.
In the weight room, and he was a true athlete.
He was naturally gifted. Yep.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't necessarily underrated, but I think everybody expected less from him because of his effort off the field.
Yeah.
But he was a gamer.
He was a gamer.
Programmer.
Ethan Hopp led in fumble recoveries with 4. Ethan Hopp led in sacks with 3.
Ethan Hopp was a stud.
Yeah, he was.
He was a mean dude.
He was a dude.
He was always the first one to come and celebrate with you after a big tackle.
And he was kind of the. My dad can probably remember. Well, Scotty, you remember we'd have a sleepover at my place after the game or whatever, and my dad would always make a bunch of French toast. And then one day, Scotty and I get up there, and we're eating French toast, and Hop comes up 20 minutes later in his underwear. He's in his whitey tighties, and he sits down at our kitchen table with my mom and my sister and my dad and Scott. But that's just who Hop was. Yeah. He didn't even question it. He just sat down.
As long as there's not race drapes in the back, he's good to go.
Oh, there probably was.
That's awesome. Talk about all district players. First team, we had Jordan. Quarterback, he was the MVP of our district. Caleb was offensive lineman. Jeff was offensive lineman. Dylan at running back. First team defense, we had Scott at linebacker. Brandon Cool, DB. Tyler Starr, linebacker. David Shue, D-line. Cody Zimmerman, D-line. Ethan Hop, D-line. Honorable mention was Derek Johnson at split and Sam Halse at tight end. Honorable mention defense was Eric Timmerman and Jordan Wagner. So again, goes back to that D line. We had all four of our guys made some type of all district. All state players: Jordan Gacke, first team All State, Des Moines Register, first team All State, Iowa newspaper, utility, captain of the Northwest Iowa All.
Curtis, didn't he make like something special with the elite team or something?
First team All State. Sports Connection.
Captain of the elite team? Or?
That was probably somebody else. I don't think they would have given that to
probably Jeff.
Yes, Jeff.
No, I think they misquoted it and they put Jeff's brother.
That did never happen. I got all state because my last name was Gacke.
Jordy was the captain of the 2A team.
Gatorade Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He was captain of the Iowa Newspaper Association All-State, so that's where. And then Scott was first team All-State Des Moines Register at running back, first team All-State Sports Connection linebacker, second team All-State Iowa Newspaper Association linebacker. Caleb was first team All-State Des Moines Register O-line, first team Iowa Newspaper Association, first team Sports Connection at O-line, so basically cleared the list there. Jeff was second team All-State Des Moines Register, third team All-State Iowa Newspaper. Brandon Cool was third team. Third team All-State Iowa Newspaper at DB. That year we school records, total points, we sat with 447. Honestly, looking back at record-wise, what this team did was extremely impressive.
And they lasted a long time, those records did.
They did, and some are still standing to this day. Total offensive yards were 4,802 yards of a total offense. Total rushing, 3,859. Individually, Jordan broke the total offense with 2,748 rushing with 1,805 and 943. I believe that record was broke this year by Zach, right?
The passing, yeah.
Just the passing, but total.
Total.
The total is broken.
But rushing is still there.
Yeah.
18, that's phenomenal.
Single game, Jordan had 8th best pass performance in the single game with 152 against Sioux Center. Career, Jordan finished 4th in career tackles with 335. Finished 6th in career rushing with 2392. Finished 6th in career with pass completions with 62. Finished 8th in career passing with 943. Tyler Starr finished 4th in career pass receptions with 25. Finished 7th in career receiving yards with 360.
Sorry, I had to laugh. 4th in career receptions with 25.
Scott finished 9th in career tackles with 239.
He could easily have gotten 25 a game, though, if we wanted to.
Well, if he ran the right route.
Just kidding, T-Star. Another thing, too, we talk about T-Star, but T-Star, obviously the first player from CLGLR to get drafted and play in the NFL. And I actually had a college coach today, Eastern Michigan, came in, and we're talking about him, but he a kid that, again, Northwest Iowa guy that made the league for a couple years, and credit to him. And
it's a big deal.
It is. It really is.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is huge.
Big for our program, big for him, obviously for him, but just really proud of where we're at. Where he was at, and he was a kid that
he goes anybody but the Atlanta Falcons. He's probably still in the league.
Yeah,
but
But again, guy that crazy to think that you play with somebody in the NFL. So. We talked about this earlier, but this class is 45-4 throughout the 4 years in high school, 56-3 in the 7th through 12th years, and I actually took that out of the program.
Who'd they lose to? Solon twice, and who else? Lamar's?
Lamar's once.
Sioux Center?
No, you can't count the Lamar's game, can you?
It was in high school.
I don't know if it was Lamar.
I
We
don't
were
know.
sophomores in high school.
I don't know how you count that either when you count sophomores.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot. I mean, I don't know how that.
Were any of us
Because
actually starting? Was
even
Jordan maybe
freshmen,
as a
some
punter?
of us played JV, and they.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think it's whatever you want to count it as, I guess.
Want
but
to
it's-
give maybe
Yeah,
type
so-
of thing, but
Snap over the head.
But anyway, we're running on 2 hours and 45 minutes, so a
Yeah.
podcast. But again, for me personally, this is a special podcast for myself because it involved a lot of guys that I grew up with. So I appreciate you guys coming on tonight, and
Thanks, dudes.
I love seeing you guys. I don't get to see you enough, so it's so special to be able to have this time to spend with you guys and talk about stuff that we all had great times in our lives.
Yeah, thank you guys. And one other record. What's the record for the longest podcast? Did we make it, Jeff?
Nope.
2
weeks ago.
No, you'll never beat the
Last
7.
week. Well, let's
Never
keep
beat
going.
Got a half hour to go, buddy.
Oh, boy.
we
was
could
that
talk
the-
stories. We could talk
was
stories.
that the 70s?
I talked to somebody who said they're coming home from Des Moines last week, and they
And they
heard
made it home?
the whole podcast.
And they loved every minute of it.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to piggyback earlier, Coach, when Caleb was talking about you and how an impact you made on us when we started, and then Scott talking about growing up and kind of being role models. My favorite part playing high school football was looking forward to Saturday mornings and coaching flag football. And without that time, I don't know if today I'm a coach or an official. Like, that made me want to work with kids today. And I think we need more of that in the sports world today. So, like, as a coach, I try to find ways to involve high school kids, because if we don't find a way to make it cool to be a part of a sports program, they don't work with kids and they don't realize how awesome it truly is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's so cool,
And I think
Jeff.
that's part
Thanks.
of the reason why we're lacking coaches and lacking officials, because, as an outside world, we think like everybody's a dickhead and everybody yells at the coaches and the officials, but it's really not that bad once you get into it.
Right.
And I learned that through you, coming up, and then from flag football. So
That's awesome.
I appreciate
That's
it.
awesome, Jeff. That's awesome.
It's one of the reasons we are what we are, buddy.
That's awesome.
One last thing I got to say, too, is me and Mitch Lupkus were talking last weekend over a few barley pops, and I was talking about Coach Schmidt and how he never yelled at me, and I was telling Mitch, like, I never understood why Coach Schmidt, he never yelled at me. And Mitch Lupkus made a very good point. Maybe it's first and last, but he goes, your brother was watching you so damn close, Coach Schmidt never had a chance to yell at you. So.
It's probably the same point that Graham is in that boat right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. That's how it kind of started with Graham, and then let it. So anyway.
Well, I think Coach Schmidt was so tired of yelling at your brother when he played.
But I was almost to the point where I'm like, does he not care because he's not yelling, or it was just one of the. Because if you quit yelling, you quit care.
I think you thought you were pretty special, Scotty.
Well, I know. I think, like Mitch said, it was Kurt just. Yeah, you're lined up a foot wrong, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for it all, and just want to thank you guys for everything you do.
Well,
and you did,
and one
so.
last thanks I'll say is, before this all started, Kurt pulled me aside and said, out of the 06, 07, 08 team, we were definitely the best team. And I just really appreciate, those kind words. So.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Good thing Casey had left. And
couple barley pops.
Yeah. But you know what though? But honestly, Caleb, I'm not gonna agree with that. but I will agree with that the 07 was the best team.
I agree with you that was a
so
tough team.
you were part of that team.
That
So
was a tough. That was a tough team.
I'll give you that. But 07, and we'll talk about that down the road here. But 07 it was.
It kind of goes back
Special.
to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, back in the 70s. That 75 team with the combination of three classes, like your 06 team was special. But your senior year, when you're all the same age and you're all that same team, the team part of it's a lot tighter. A lot tighter.
Well,
so there's some truth to it, Caleb. There really is.
You know what, guys? I really appreciate all the compliments you've given us, but you guys made coaching very easy. You guys were. I mean, when you get to walk into practice every day and see you guys as players and get to coach you guys, it is special for us coaches, and it's what made us win we won the coaching lottery, being able to coach you type of players throughout our careers.
And you're all legends. You're all part of the CLGLR legacy, boys.
Yep, dogs. But anyway, we're gonna finish up this podcast next week, April 28th at 7 o'clock. We're gonna have Rich Rossi and Joel Viss come on, and we're gonna talk the entire history of CLGLR.
That's nice. We want us to talk it all because Joel will be here.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right there. So, anyway, I appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wish you all lived in our community so I could watch your kids go through this program, but I respect that. And so, anyway, Scott. Yeah, you got to find a girl first. But anyway, we're going. But anyway,
Caleb's coming back.
Yeah.
Caleb's coming back.
But anyway, thank you guys. And appreciate you guys coming out tonight. We're done.
Love you.
We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends about our podcast, as we are available on YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcast, and Spotify. And of course, follow us on social. We are at CLGLR Football on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can contact us by emailing clglrfb@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and go Lions!